from BossBlunts think tank with Pantheon, Edward Britchick, Cash Money, and everybody in the think tank. Let's get AMC Bigums. Let's get Jackson Hunter. Let's get everybody we can in here right now to have a good time with us and just kind of kick this off. Thanks everybody for joining us. We're just kicking off a stream. This one's going to be related to macroeconomics, stock market manipulation, and some very important subjects that are near and dear to our heart. And I think that's mainly getting extremely fucking rich off of our favorite stocks. And why is that important? I've been hearing a lot of people asking about what's the point of getting so fucking rich, or what good is it going to do us if we make a shitload of money on the stock market if hyperinflation just sets in and takes away the vast majority of the value of the dollar. Pantheon, you want to touch on that, brother? I'm going to put you on the spot, but I've been watching your YouTube channel here on AMC and Macroeconomics for a little while as well, and I would love to hear your insights as to the current macroeconomic and stock market perspective, if you don't mind chiming in.
Not at all, boss. Thanks for having me on tonight. I appreciate that. There's been a lot of conversation with people talking about what's the point, just like you say, as we get our tendies and all of a sudden the dollar is going to be worthless. Well, it's not going to happen that quick. These things take a lot longer to materialize, right? So it's not like we're going to get our tendies and all of a sudden magically it's going to be 10 cents on the dollar the next day. So the important thing is to make sure you have a plan. Get a plan ahead of time. Understand what you're going to do with your tendies, right? You don't wait until it actually happens and then turn around and say, what do I need to do? You got to make sure you've got a good accountant who understands, depending on how much tendies you think you're going to have based on your exit sort of position. And, quite frankly, you should kind of be flexible and see how things go, not financial advice. But based on how much you get out of this play, you need to make sure you've got an accountant that understands how to deal with people with high-end money. You got to make sure you've got a lawyer that understands how to deal with clients that are in your kind of bracket. And make sure that you've got those people kind of lined up, identified early. Moving into out of the ISDA banks is another thing that we'll touch on tonight, I'm sure. That's another piece that has to be prepared. Start interviewing the non-ISDA banks now and get your idea ready for if you can't move today, which would be ideal if you could. If you can't, make sure you're in a position to move tendies after. Make sure that you know what you're going to do with your money. If you're looking for a second citizenship by investment programs are rampant all over the place. Make sure you've got all these plans, because digital assets, digital money transferring is going to be pretty simple when it's said and done. But if you're looking to pull tons and tons of cash out of the bank, right? If we have 20% of people show up to the banks to take out cash tomorrow, you're going to have a problem getting your cash, right? So make sure you've got the idea of where the money's going to go, where you want to put it, what your plan of action is. Because my belief, my conviction is that when we MOASS, not if, it's going to be a position of we should move quickly, but we don't need to worry about moving in a day. But make sure you've got your plan of action ready to implement.
That's really important, I think, as well, especially for people that are a little concerned as to what to do and how to do it. And I don't think that anybody should be taking financial advice from each other. But I think that there's a lot of good information out there that people are passing around on what you can do specifically to fight inflation after something that is going to be as violent as a short squeeze or even a financial collapse. So there's definitely a lot of things that could be done. Hey, Bigums, excuse me. He'll be here in a minute. But I wanted to ask Edward if you can tell me a little bit about what you saw today on companies like AMC and GameStop, particularly after closing.
Hey, having me. I'm seeing a projection that's very similar to the May-June fractal. But with the whole theatrical releases, I feel like there's a lot planned going on for AMC, and it's like the stock market basically they try to align things like with news or with events or releases, and I think Jurassic is going to be quite the big one. The Jurassic World Dominion that's coming out June 10th. But yeah, we shall see. I still am pointing for Avatar 2 being quite the biggest one in terms of box office. I think a lot of people need to look into that because it still held records forever. The Avatar 1, 2.8 billion. that it made, and people are eager and waiting for Avatar 2.
Yeah,
Same
that's
as me.
insane, actually, right? That a movie that came
Yeah.
out over a decade ago is still holding one of the top box office sales records.
It's insane. Yeah, and they say movie theaters are dead. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I agree with you
Yeah.
on that.
So, and the options chain for May, we saw a lot of focus in April. Like there was a lot of calls, there was a lot of puts back and forth in the derivatives market. But for May, there's only on May 20th there's 95,000 that's out the money for calls and 70,000 that's out the money for puts. And that's the only like focus date for the options, and everything else is like only around 30,000 for the volume on the options chain.
Mhm.
So if a market maker were to ever play out, whether it be to drive a price up with limited damage, it would be the May, in my opinion. Because April there was a lot, like we've seen what happened back in January. The option chain was insane, and what they did was just blatant corruption, in my opinion. Like people were thinking, oh, it's gonna run, and it was the opposite. It was a complete opposite. It was the max Spain kept like hitting, and then like even dipping below that every single Friday, every single week, and people were just getting frustrated. Like
But
what's going on?
But we kept it real, though, right? We kept telling everybody, hey, it's
Yeah.
just because it's looking good, just because we had a 40% run, doesn't mean the squeeze has started. You know, we've got to be
Yeah, and
in tune with what's going on here with the manipulation, with other stocks that are affecting it, ETF baskets, ETNs, and so on, right?
yeah, we proved, also shown that the market maker, he drives the market, and he can do freely whatever he wants, whether it's short selling, short exempt data, the type of stuff that he has at free will, the contracts with the banks, the stuff that we don't see that's hidden behind the scenes in the shadows, and then the complacency with the SEC, and all the types of corruption that's going on, all of it playing out, and it's just, it's exposing exactly what's going on in the market, and everybody is seeing just how blatant everything is. The gaslighting by the SEC, the different
Yep.
the different Twitter of SEC. They're just gaslighting retail every single day with their stupid posts. And it's just, it's blatant. We're exposing, we're pushing, we're talking, we're being loud. And we want change. Like, we want fair and transparent markets. And we know they're definitely not fair and transparent. Not even a bit. It's literally the show billions playing out. And, they're benefiting the 1%. They don't care about the 99% of people.
Speaking
and we're
of what's
fighting.
playing out, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I have to. You want to know why? Because right now on my screen, I'm sharing what you posted on Twitter of the video of AMC and GameStop that run together about 80% of the time, and they look at it. This shit is a joke. You can see the exact same patterns happening over and over again on these two stocks for the most part in tandem.
Yeah, the only difference is like either the price, the peaks, like the valleys are basically behavioral. Like they're the same algorithm. They're you can pinpoint to like every single point on the chart, and you'll be like, oh, it's like, is this the same thing? So
I've got another one pulled up
it's
here, as a
just-
matter of fact. Now, I want people to know that I personally subscribe to the fractal theory, in the sense that I do believe that there are repeating patterns here. I personally don't believe that the fractals or the algorithm drive the pattern. I think that the response to the situation on outside of the market makers and hedge funds control is what is dealing the algorithm. Is the way that it is being manipulated and pushed around to move the stock price. When you look at the executive orders that we saw from President Trump and President Biden that took effect January 28th and May 27th, and that were both subsequently extended, when you look at your fractals, how would you, per our previous conversations, think that we could just, kind of explain the way that these movements seem to repeat themselves?
Yeah, I think when we were talking about like the executive orders, one of the key things is probably their liquidity. and how, like, whether it's restricted or it's being nerfed. I guess the word for that. And what caused the run-ups was their lack of, I guess, support of funds, right? And causing the run-ups where they have no other choice but to free the market and let like either cover things or let things run or whatever. Probably coincides with their FTDs or whatever the case may be. But it's the same kind of similar moment where an executive order is playing out again, and right before funds are really tight with everything. So we will see. Time will tell, obviously. And when it comes to fractals, I'm just trying to understand the behavior. Like, it doesn't, like,
Yep.
sometimes it can predict, sometimes it doesn't, right? It's just a way, in my opinion, like how I decipher like behavior, and just to project what might happen in the future. I mean, there's many different, from weather, from earthquakes. People use different data to try to project like future movements or whatever. So
Absolutely.
in the same manner, that's how I see it with fractals. They repeat. We know that the basically stock market is run on computer algorithms, AI, Skynet, whatever you want to call it. So it has a behavior that repeats itself. And if we've shown previous times, like those things, they do tend to repeat. It just like when and how often they repeat, how close do they repeat, that's the difficulty of predicting the future.
Oh, I agree, Ed. It's technical analysis, right? It's not crystal ball. It's not tarot card reading. It's if it works 51% of the time, then it's better than nothing, and it's one of the tools that we need to keep in our arsenal. I completely agree with you on that, without a doubt. So I appreciate that explanation, man, because a lot of people don't seem to understand it, So I appreciate you, trying to explain and trying to educate people in that sense. Like, hey, this is not a perfect science. A plus B does not equal C in a market in which everything is self-reported, And
Yep.
that being said, I was wondering if you guys haven't watched Pantheon AMC, make sure you go check him out on YouTube. He's got an excellent YouTube channel. Does like a long format show several nights a week, usually like 4 or 5 nights a week, from what I've seen, and I've been kind of following him for a while. So I'd like to thank Pantheon for being here with us tonight. So make sure you guys check him out on YouTube if you haven't already. He'll probably give you some great information that you might not have heard on our channel in the past. For example, a few nights ago, he was talking about citizenship by investment in countries around the world, and other options for people and apes and so on. So I definitely do want to ask you one thing, Pantheon. Can you elaborate or explain, and possibly even elaborate a little bit on what is going on with Project Lithium, if you know anything in specific about that?
Absolutely. I did a video on that I just put out this last Saturday, on Project Lithium, and there's confusion in the ape community by certain YouTube people that are trying to explain that there's a difference between that. They're trying to say that Project Ion and Project Lithium are the same thing, and they're different from what is called in the community Robot Godzilla. So that's untrue. So let's just clarify that piece first, and then I'd like to circle back to what Edward was just talking about, to take another look at the whole May perspective. But what we've got is Project Ion and Robot Godzilla. Those are the same exact thing, which is why I said the other night, Robot Godzilla is a stupid name. Let's just call it what it actually is. It's Project Ion.
Yeah.
Right. And Project Ion is about T+1 and T+0 settlement timeframes. That's currently moved out of development phase, and it's in testing phase right now in Q1 of 2022. Now, Project Lithium is the recent conversation about a Fed digital currency, and that is now what they call in prototype stage. So that is not something that right now today is able to be rolled out for people to get paid off of. I know there was conversation about the $50 billion coin. There's conversation about the Fed-backed digital currency. The Fed-backed digital currency would run through Project Ion, because that's created for both the T+1 and a T+0 settlement timeframe. Currently, we have a T+2 timeframe. So when Project Ion is brought into effect, they will have the continuance of the T+2 existing settlement timeframe run in parallel, with the option to move into the T+1 settlement. And that also is capable of doing T+0, which is where the crypto coin would be ran through, all managed by the DTCC under their umbrella, but they've got the DTC underneath them. So that's something that's still very much in prototype phase. I did a video on that on Saturday. I think Bigham said he was going to do his next video on that too, which is great because the more information we get out there about this stuff, the better. We're just trying to give everybody correct information so each of you can make your own best informed personal decision for how you want to handle your finances. None of us are telling you to buy, none of us are telling you to sell. We just want to make sure you've got the facts, right? There's way too much FUD that just spreads around, and we want to make sure that the proper stuff is out there. If I could pivot for a moment, I'd like to go back to what Edward was just talking about regarding the options chain with May. And it's interesting. I think he's spot on, and it was really smart that Edward picked up on the low numbers of the options in that chain. So Sun Tzu's The Art of War, right, tells you, show strength when you're weak and show weakness when you're strong, and also know your enemy. So when you look at that options chain, and we don't pick dates, right? I don't pick dates. I don't give prices. I'm not saying we're going to squeeze on a particular day. But when you look at all these different factors, you look at the executive order that Boss has done a great job articulating to people. We look at the options chain discovery that Edwards brought up. You start looking at all these different factors. Not only that, but the larger economic landscape. When you investigate what happened in the 1987 stock market crash on Black Monday, and you take a look at what happened in the 2007 through 2009 mortgage-backed crisis that we went through, you see consistent parallels of how hedge funds acted and how the Fed responded. It's the same story over and over and over and over, right? And we're seeing the exact same indicators that led to both of those instances. We're seeing the same things play out right now in front of our faces. If you know what you're looking for, it's all right there. So think like the enemy, right? Know thy enemy. If you're looking at an options chain, as Edward pointed out, that has a low options in the money and out of the money overall, you have to start thinking to yourself, if you wanted, just in theory, guys, if you wanted to eliminate gamma out of the equation, then you look at setting something off when there's no options to be played. That right there would eliminate gamma out of the equation, okay? Not all of it, but a portion of it. Then if you were looking at trying to eliminate something like FOMO, if you're looking at something like FOMO, then you would want to say, well, perhaps I should be thinking about removing the buy button. Again, I'm not pushing these things. I'm saying let's think like a hedge fund. None of us are hedgies, but let's try to think like one. Those are two elements that run it up. If they got those elements brought out, now it's a whole portion of let's just talk about price. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen that way, but I'm saying when you see these indicators, you see the executive order June 3rd, you see a low options chain in May. I'm not saying we're going to squeeze in that time frame, guys. But I'm saying if you look at that and you start looking at all these different Fed indicators of what's happening with rising inflation, just like before the 87 stock market collapse, just like before the 2007 through 2009 mortgage-backed security issues that we went through with that whole collapse, the Fed basically comes down to three options. And the option number one is they speak to ensure that everybody gets confidence in the market. Now, we know that Old Yeller and Jerome Powell absolutely suck at talking to give confidence to the markets. So there's option number one. They're going to come out and say, don't worry. Powell comes out and says, as Bighams likes to repeat, I have no answers for this. I have no answers for that. You got Old Yeller coming out saying, yeah, you guys should be happy because we've handled this for you so perfectly. You should thank us for what we've done to help all of you people. It's absurd. Option number two is print money, as Cash says, money printer go burr. Option number three, get everybody to work together. Now, what does that mean? That means the Fed approaches the banks and says, give a little more risk tolerance to these hedge funds. Don't call them just yet. Don't do the margin calls yet, which the banks say back. Why should I do that? What's in it for me? That's when the Fed comes back and says, give them a little more slack. Let's see if they survive. And if they do, you're going to get paid. And if they don't, the Fed will print money and back you, which takes you back to option two. It comes back to the Fed will print the freaking money. They've done it every single time. They've never come up with a different method of handling these situations. That's their only response.
It sucks when their only response of printing money can do absolutely nothing to help us out because we've reached the end of the fucking road here, it seems like.
Yeah, it definitely has a different feel this time, doesn't it?
But it's true what you're saying. If you go back to Astro, when he came up with a fractal theory, a lot of people sort of didn't really understand it. But for me, I simplified it and it's like a game of football. So everything happens within the lines. and you get your first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and then people say, yeah, but it didn't act, it took longer. Well, they had extra time. And going back to what Pantheon's just clearly done, this pattern repeats and repeats. Astro with the fractals repeat and repeat. But if you look at it like a game of football, everything has to happen between the high and the low, and then all the market maker exempts and all the roles and the changes and everything that they use. When you start breaking it all down but simplify it, people need to understand that, you'll get people saying it's never going to happen, it's never going to happen. Well, explain why 2008 happened. Because it was the same players, the same people, the same tools, the same rules, and they didn't really change an awful lot. So when things come out and they start going in, Bigham's is brilliant at jumping on it and explaining it, but simplified, we're in a game of football. Personally, with what Burchak has said, no dates, etc., but I think we're in extra time. And the money that they've used, they can't continue forever because 2008 happened. So when everyone wants to get, down, I do get it. It's dragged on. I do get it. People come in thinking it was been a quick turnover. I do get it, but you just
any
step
of us
back
think it was
out
going to be this long?
Well,
Probably
we're
not.
winning.
Probably
we're
not.
winning. If we weren't winning, boss, it would be $2 again, or it would have gone bankrupt. We saved 80,000 people's jobs in AMC alone. In 2 run, questions get asked.
Damn
BW
right we did.
run, nothing changed. So with 2 running, 5 running, 10 running, there's going to be a shit ton of questions asked. But we're in the game. We're still in the game. We haven't lost. We're winning. But sometimes it's hard to see that we're winning because we're up against it. We're all defence at the moment. The offence side needs to come out. They're losing money every day. So Burry took 2.5 years. When he put his money in 2.5 years, it was costing him millions. We're holding. It's costing us time. But it's costing them problems. So, the liquidity in the market, as Burchak rightly flagged up, the liquidity, when you look at the options chain, there's been a lot of chat recently. We're educating, we're understanding things that you bring out, the global economics for the markets everywhere. There's no way of stopping this. I never understood how, when COVID broke, we never automatically all went into a recession, because we've had recessions before and it wasn't a global lockdown. I mean, everywhere was shut down. Nobody was flying, nobody was moving. You had the supply chain issues. This all ties into the same game in that same fractals. So the tools that they have, they can keep a lid on it. They can play their games. They can move it around. They can get help from the Fed, etc., etc. But that time is running out. And when it runs out, it blows. And recently, we had a blow, the 40% that you mentioned. But what they managed to do then, they're not going to keep being able to do. So the deficit of the United States, the money it's costing each individual citizen, the average Joe still hasn't woken up to this. We're doing all we can, but when you tie it all together, we're in a game and we're winning. Just the final whistle hasn't gone yet, and I'm waiting until the final whistle. Whatever else happens, can encourage us or deflate us, depending on how you want to look on it. So it's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. And what I see is 10 million people that ain't gone nowhere. So when people keep saying, people are selling and people got money worries and people over leverage, yeah, they did, but that's a peripheral. That's 5-10%. We've got 90%. We started at 80%. That's what Adam Aaron, and I always talk about AMC, but GME will do its thing. GME and AMC need to come together because 2 running causes massive problems for them, and there's no hiding the fucker. And that's without all the others. So people want to come together and they want to talk, start talking about the optimism, start talking about the fact we're still in the fight. No one's leaving. Adam Aaron said 80%. Months later, he said 90%. So everyone telling me, Gasparino's at the fucking wheel, telling me that we're losing and people are leaving and people are selling. How do we go up 10%? The money that the institutions still own, yes, they're loaning it out. Is it killing it? No, it's delaying it. It doesn't kill it. The only thing that kills this move that we've got in play is the 90% that have held since last January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and into this year. We're doing fantastic. The education's better. Trace Trade the other night talked about the education better. We've got better YouTube channels. We've got better info. Got better communities. Discord's flying left, right, and centre. We're doing fantastic. We're doing fantastic. We have got nothing to worry about apart from time it takes. And if that's all we've got to worry about, we're in a much better position than banks, prime brokers, hedge funds, Federal Reserve, than the local government officials, there's people writing to them. But anyway, I've had my say, I've got work doing, but Appreciate you letting me have a little blast.
Yeah, keep it going, man. Keep it going.
Wolfie, if I
It's
could
the
tack
fucking
onto
truth.
that just for a sec,
Go ahead,
if I
brother.
could tack onto that, what we've learned, right, from the previous issues we had in the previous market crashes, right, is that basically the hedge funds show that periods of market dislocation can be predicted to a certain degree by trends in the hedge fund industry because they're so unregulated. They take on risks before anybody else does. So when you've got lower mean, higher volatility returns in the hedge fund industry, you can measure that as precursors for what's to come. And what have we had go on? We've had major hedge funds tell their clients, you can't take your money out. We're going to restrict you. They did the same thing back in 2008. We've got the hedge funds telling their clients, you can't have your money. It'll take you 4 years to get it all out. But don't worry, everything's completely fine. We've got the 4 L's of the financial crisis that it consistently hits every time: liquidity, leverage, linkages, and losses. And those things are stacking up.
100%.
Oh,
And
I
go
like
back
that.
a little bit.
Say that one more time for me, Pantheon.
The 4 L's of the financial crisis, and it's consistent every single time. We've got liquidity, leverage, linkages, and losses, and that's all stacking up exactly the same. Inflation's coming up just like every other time, and we know how the Fed's going to react.
100%. And you can add to that as well. There is a difference between this time and last time. This time's got 10 million people involved that are very loud, that have done everything and said everything and highlighting everything that we continue to do. The reason that's quite important is the fact that recently Free Trade, which is a UK brokers linked to some firms in America, they recently put out to everyone saying that on June the 1st, that if you bought any stock in the FTSE, in the UK markets, that from June the 1st, they as a company now want to loan them shares out. Now, we all know about loaning shares. If you don't agree to it by June the 1st, what they're going to do is make your account a buy-only account. Then yesterday, I see in the think tank, it was flagged up that there's also the American one, a big one, that's also now looking to make changes, and I think it was effective end of April. So if you add that, that is a change that they've learned after 2008 because of us, because it's got 10 million people that are still talking and being loud. They're adding on little tools, they're adding on little bits that are going to limit it. I've said for absolutely months that one of my thoughts or concerns would be that they would take the buy button away. Now, I'm not saying 100%, I'm no Nostradamus and I haven't got a crystal ball. But I honestly think when you look at it, like you pointed out, Pantheon, when you look at how they have to act, what they've got to deal with, what they got to think of, we should be jumping up and down and partying every weekend because they're in a position where they're up against it. They're not going to come out and tell us, but they're up against it. And when you look at the subtleties and the changes and the rule changes, etc., 2008 was one thing. This time round, when this blows wide open and the cost and everything else, they can't go back and say what they said in 2008. They can't go back and just bail people out willy-nilly and throw trillions because they're already throwing the money in. And it's just delaying things. But they're not going to be able to prop it up against China, Evergrande, the war, Russia. They're not going to be able to fight against 10 million people saying, hang on, that ain't true. That ain't right. Congress, people are writing to their Congress. They're getting replies. They've got it on paper. They can produce that afterwards. All these things that we're doing has added a complex to this play that they never actually had to deal with in 2008. And whilst I love the Big Squeeze film, this film's going to be eyes wide open because we know what's going on. We've seen what's going on. We kept telling them and telling them and telling them, who are we? We're nobodies. We're dumb money. Well, not after this. Because the way this is all played out and panned out isn't our doing. Boss quotes me, but we're the cure to the problems in the market, the cancer in the market. And we have to remember that.
Right. We are not the fucking cause here.
Let's fucking go.
You know it, Cash.
Get the
We got
goddamn money
this. We
printer
really
out, Jerome
have got
Powell.
this time.
You're
Patience.
gonna fucking need that money printer for sure. And unfortunately, it's gonna lead to a shitload of hyperinflation. But that's why we're fucking hedging now for the mother of all short squeezes, as well as the imminent stock market and real estate crashes that we believe to come. None of us are financial advisors. We do not provide financial advice of any sort. We just provide information, common sense, and educational information for everybody here to take with a grain of salt and go do your own due diligence. I didn't make these fucking charts. We didn't make up these rules. We didn't come up with the issues that are happening. We're just trying to show them to everybody out there that's willing to listen that we've got stock market problems, we've got food problems, we've got supply chain problems and inflation and war, and the list goes on. I could just keep naming shit, but I don't want to get all sappy on YouTube again because of how shitty things are. Let's put it that way. But I truly believe we're in a situation that the over-leveraging caused by these hedge funds, that's been proven to us by Janet fucking Yellen herself in front of Congress testifying about it, is gotten to a point that is completely, I don't even like saying the word, but it's gotten completely out of hand to the point where there's nothing that can be done to prevent things like this executive order from margin calling these pieces of shit, just like it did on May 27th and just like it did on January 28th. The ridiculous situation that we saw in 2008 with mortgage-backed securities has not finished. They just repackaged everything into new tranches in different locations that are governed by the CFTC, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, in order to skirt the Dodd-Frank regulations implemented by the Securities Exchange Commission. Nothing has fucking changed.
100%.
That's what allows us to take advantage of a shitty situation like an AMC and GameStop squeeze that are the cause of criminals like Ken fucking Griffin and Bernie Madoff.
And that not changing, boss, from 2008 is massively important. All the same players, their side, the institutions, the banks, the prime brokers, the governments. I know, governments change, parties come in, parties go. They're all the same. There's no difference. No one gets in the front of money, meaning if they're earning money and no one knows about it, what's the problem? We're all getting rich, fuck it. Well, 10 million people turned up and said, we're the fucking problem. We're the cure. Do something about it. We want fairness, transparency. We want a market to work the way a market should fucking work. It's the United States of America, for fuck's sake. Do your damn job. Get off your asses and do your damn fucking job. You want to make money, fine, but don't rob it out of our fucking pockets. We've had it for generations. People need to wake up. Our great-great-great-grandkids' money is being used today. 90,000. Every single person in America today owes $90,000. No, I don't. I've only got $600 in my account. I rent a property. I ain't got a car. I haven't got a mortgage. I don't owe 90,000. You do. It's taxes. They spend your money. The Fed print money from nothing. They spend your money and you go to work and your taxes are going to be higher than what they would have been because they fucked up again like 2008. Your pensions are going to disappear. The 401s, we've said it again and again. People need to just take a look. None of us are financial advisors. None of us are burries today. Wait until this plays over. Everyone's going to go, how the fuck did I not know? Because you didn't listen. You didn't look. You didn't do a bit of DD. You didn't do a bit of research. Open your eyes. Stop listening to mainstream fucking media. Open your eyes. We're not telling you this because we need you. We don't need anybody in this play. This play's done and dusted. It's just time. The game's already in play.
Holding these shares, just like you fucking said. At 100%. Least 4+ million AMC investors holding 500 million shares. And there are some people, several people, in the think tank alone, in our Discord group right here, that are holding 5x shares. And many of them are owning tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of AMC and GameStop and other meme stocks such as this, as well as the fact that we know institutions are also holding around 20 to 30% of the float. Not to mention the self-reported short data that we receive from hedge funds and market makers is all manipulated and is also a consistent 20 to 25% of the float. And the only time that you see that run up and those numbers start to change and the failures to deliver have to start being purchased back properly instead of just rolled is when the margin calls come out. And when the margin calls come out, no manipulation of the market maker or the hedge fund or the prime broker can stop it. There is no, even the Federal Reserve can't hold off, and the New York Fed working together via the plunge protection team, you and the ESF using ESF money, our taxpayer dollars, to illegally prop up the stock market and doing it quote unquote under the guise of wartime activities to save our market from collapse. These issues are not because of Vladimir Putin and Russia. The issues that we're seeing are due to the bank greed that we've seen since the moment the dollar was was withdrawn from the gold standard. What we've got next
Somebody got really greedy.
Cash. What do you like to say that our president is telling us it might just happen here, June 3rd, 2022, and so on?
We're gonna be rich by executive order.
We're gonna be so fucking rich. And I cannot make any promises, and nobody can. But I do know one thing. I know that the last time I checked, January 28th was an all-time high for GameStop. The last time I checked, May 27th, AMC and GameStop started moving pretty hard. And on June 2nd, AMC hit an all-time high of $72. I know that on June 3rd, Executive Order 14032 was issued by Executive Order of the fucking President, stating that it revokes this other executive order from January 13th, 21, and makes amendments to this one that makes it effective through June 3rd, 2022. So, unless this gets extended again, Ken Griffin, get the goddamn money printer out. It's time to pay us. One thing I do have to say is I do believe that extra time should be allowed by anybody who's trying to do anything based, related to stock market place. I like shares because they don't expire. But other things in the market also provide a lot of leverage. So if you know what that means, you're probably able to make your own decisions and figure it out for yourself. Pantheon, can you touch on this at all, man? What do you think? How do you think this relates to the Evergrande situation and other Chinese collateral?
Well, it's completely asinine that at this point they haven't just completely junk statused everything that Evergrande has. It's absurd that this would even be delayed at any length based on what they've going on. How many times have they actually failed to provide any of the required payments that they were supposed to get? Like, what this comes down to is the same thing that took place. I hate to keep going back in dates, but to 2008, right? Like, they weren't even properly rating the bonds at that point into the proper status. They were waiting for everybody to get their ducks lined up in a row, and then they decided it was time to do it. And why are these hedge funds fighting us so hard? Why haven't they given up? I heard people ask this question to me quite a bit on my channel. Well, you got to remember in 2008, we had over 2,000 hedge funds close up shop. 2,000. The most ever happened in 1 year. The average return rate of all hedge funds in 2008 was negative 18.4%. Have fun explaining to Michael Jordan and Sidney Crosby and all your rich investors why you brought them a negative 18.4% return. And I think we can all agree that the problem we're facing today, they're facing today, not us, is much, much, much worse than 2008 because they never fixed 2008.
Hey, can I get my man AMC Bigums in here? Let me give a shout out. Great job, Pantheon. Make sure you guys are checking out Pantheon AMC too. But I know my man AMC Bigums just walked in here. Always on time, because anytime he shows up is the right time. How the fuck are you, brother, if you can hear me?
How you doing, buddy?
Dude, a lot better.
What's up, Bigums?
A lot better now that I'm here hanging out with you guys. Got a bunch of fucking wrinkle brains in the chat. This is fantastic. What's going on, brother?
Oh yeah.
Hey man,
Not much.
have you
What are
seen
you guys
this?
talking about?
Have you seen this ridiculous shit we were talking about? Project Lithium, dude. Can you touch on that a little bit? Pantheon and we were just kind of going on about Project Ion, how it's different from Project Lithium. Are you able to touch on that right now, or would you prefer to save it for the video?
I haven't done all that much research on it yet. I'm doing that tonight.
That's
So
cool. I didn't
I
mean
won't
to
have
put you
too
on the
much to
spot
say
or
on it.
anything like that. You know, I just
Nah,
was,
you're good,
wanted
man.
to throw it out there
I
like
just
that.
got
Yeah,
home.
Pantheon did a great job talking about it too, brother. But
I have to check that out.
as a matter of
He always
fact,
does good work, man.
yeah, dude. Welcome. I'm glad you were able to make it. What's up, Jackson Hunter? My guy. It's great to see you. Jackson, how are you, brother?
What's up, big dog?
Dude, like I said, we got some real fucking wrinkle brains in here. I am really happy to see that. And thanks for coming out, brother. How's everything going on over there in Cali?
Dude, I'm cool, and man, just gotta clean up this binger, and I'll be right on AMC Bigham's level. But yeah, I love what you guys got going on. If anybody doesn't know me, I don't smoke.
Dude,
pot,
thanks,
so
man.
that's
I'm
a
gonna
joke.
have
But
to ask you some questions on fucking GameStop and NFTs for sure, man, because there's so much fucking shit happening. Maybe on a little bit here when you get a chance, you can kind of take me to school on the GameStop dividend situation, brother.
yeah, I'd love to.
All right, cool. Whenever you want. But right now, I just want to throw this out there. This might be a little hard for you guys to read, but I wanted to show you that this is mortgage-backed securities in blue. This is a chart from the 1950s. I'm sorry, here from the early 2000s through 2022. As you can see, it's at all-time highs currently. This is in the millions of dollars, and that's 2.4 million. So that's the equivalent of $2.4 trillion right there. And then over here, you've got the index from January, which is in the billions of dollars. It's $353 billion for the S&P Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price Index. I'll give you a quick rundown if you're not aware of what the S&P National Home Price Index is. Basically, since I don't have anything in front of me, I'll tell you simply, it's a 3-month value with a 2-month lag of what's happening in national home prices. And we've had a real steep incline, almost directly up after the stimulus began of 2020. Same thing that we saw right after 2008 when the government started quantitative easing like crazy, and that pulled household equity in real estate, which is this green line, up higher. Okay, so it gave investors, banks, institutions, and Americans more equity, and it pulled it up. Look at how hard and how much assets had to be purchased in mortgage-backed securities. This blue line of mortgage-backed securities is assets owned by the Federal Reserve. Okay, so the Federal Reserve owns almost $9 trillion in assets. And a third of that, more than 33% of that, is these shitty mortgage-backed securities. Even worse than it ever was in 2008. At the time, in 2008, they had nearly none. $150 billion worth at most. Now we've got upwards of $310 billion worth. This all leads down to the rehypothecations and the synthetic shares and everything that's happening in the banking sector, in the derivatives market, in the OTC market, in the dark pools, you name it, it is being abused into the fucking ground off the backs of Americans. And it's infuriating. It's really infuriating to see this, because the moment, now that the government is supposedly tapering, the moment that the stock market crashes, the value of these mortgage-backed securities will crash, which will cause a lot of Americans and people worldwide, because this is going to be a global real estate collapse, to go bankrupt. And some of them will get to keep their house, but those that have multiple properties will lose every home that they don't use as their primary residence. This is going to cause even more homes to go to companies like BlackRock and Vanguard, and more farmland to go to guys like Bill Gates. Meanwhile, wheat prices are at all-time fucking highs, and corn prices has hit $8 a bushel for the first time in a decade. Does that sound like coincidence, guys? Am I alone here? Diaz, I'm sorry, brother. I'm having a little lag issue there. I can't quite hear you.
Boss.
Go ahead, bro.
Can you slow the chat, man? We got 1,000 people in there.
I can slow it a little bit.
Only if you all hit the like button.
That'd be helpful. That'd be helpful. While you're at it, while you're hitting the like button, go check out Jackson Hunter's page on YouTube and Twitter. Drop and subscribe. You're going to learn a lot about GameStop and AMC. Same thing with AMC Bigums. Go drop a like on AMC's YouTube and Twitter pages. You're going to learn a lot. Same thing with Edward over on Twitter. Edward Britchick, check him out on Twitter without question. And my man Pantheon AMC doing almost daily videos on YouTube. And they're like long format, kind of like podcast style, so you don't have to be watching the screen the whole time. It's pretty dope. There's a lot of good information out there. And look at this. Thanks, man. Regarding AMC Bigums and Pantheon and other good quality information, we have to share it amongst ourselves so that we can learn as much as possible and then share it with those that we care about. Because unfortunately, this isn't something that you're going to see on CNN. There's 1,000 people watching. Thank you, everybody here, for your support. Truly, I mean that. When you think about it, CNN Plus has 10,000 fucking users, and there's over 1,000 of you hanging out in here with us right now, sharing this information. And I hope Bigums can touch on the digital dollar here in a little bit, because I definitely want to know more about this fucking criminal money exchange coming up here soon. But sharing information with those that we care about is extremely important. So please subscribe, please drop a like, and share one of your favorite videos with some people that you care about, because some of them are going to think you're absolutely fucking crazy. Just like they thought that Michael Burry was crazy back in 2008, 2007, when he was screaming from the rooftops that the housing market is on fire, that mortgage-backed securities and all these other bonds are at risk of collapse. We've got the exact same situation and the same people telling you what's happening, including, a former director of Fitch Ratings Agency, Dr. Marco Metzler, amongst many others. Right here, he's willing to come talk to me, an absolute nobody, just a fellow business owner, but absolutely nobody in comparison to his level of expertise in the bond market. But he was willing to talk to me and share our knowledge with us, and Jackson Hunter, for example, has had, people like Lucy Commissar on his channel and other great traders giving other advice in the trading markets, not financial advice, but, in trading in general and in the banking sector. And you got guys like AMC Bigums out there teaching you the nitty gritty behind the stock market and the financial markets and the way that your bank is using your money via ISDA contracts to short your favorite stock. It's absolutely fucking criminal. If anybody wants to add anything on, by all means.
Oh yeah, just the food inflation right now, like for meats, is 13%. Announced by Forbes on March 29th.
That we know
So it's
of.
even higher now.
Right? That we
Yeah,
know
that
of.
we
Think
know
about
of.
it, dude. How much has ribeyes and shit like that gone up at your local, butcher shop or, your local grocery store?
Oh, dude, Buffalo Wild Wings, like the chicken wings, it used to be cost like 14, now it's 20 something for a bundle. It's like up almost 50%.
And you're talking
For the price.
chicken. We haven't even seen the worst of this chicken flu. Because a lot of people might not know that entire flocks of chickens, 80,000, 100,000 chickens are being put down at a time because one tests positive for an avian flu. A global food shortage is upon us. If you guys take a look at the wheat futures, via like Nutrien, it's off the chain.
The coffee we buy has doubled in price. It's $15.50 for a thing of U-Ban.
It's disgusting, man.
There's a guy on YouTube called the Canadian Prepper. He's got a prepper channel and he sells prepper goods from Canada. And what he's had is he's found out that he can't even get the freeze-dried foods in stock. So he's contacted the manufacturers and they've told him to even get the main ingredients, the chicken, the beef, whatever it is that goes in it, is over a 90-day period before they'll even have access to those materials to even start remaking those freeze-dried foods and whatnot. The problem with that is most countries in the world only have a 90-day, 3-month food supply. So this just further shows you how things are compounding on each other, not to strike fear and freak people out, but this is just compounding over and over. We've got places in, I believe, in the U.S. the prairies where they were telling farmers to basically take down their crops and get paid crop insurance for perfectly fine crops. This whole thing is just it's spiraling a little bit more out of control, and I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I just want to say, please make sure you stock your pantry. Please take some provisions to make sure, next time you go to the store, pick a couple extra cans up when you're there.
Yes.
Put them in your pantry.
Yes, it won't hurt. It's one of those tangibles that can be held onto for a long period of time that will probably appreciate in value. But even more important than that is, if it does become hard to find, you're going to be really happy that you've got a couple extra cans of it, as opposed to not. As well as right now, I'm looking at select U.S. crop progress. Now, what that means is, how far along are we in the planting season? Everything is behind average and slower than trade expectations. Corn, soybeans, wheat, cotton, sorghum, winter wheat. All of it is below to significantly below. Some, like for winter wheat, for example, 53% change from a year ago even, Corn is only 4% planted, soybeans are only 1% planted, and spring wheat only 8% planted. This is all
And I
from
grew up on
the USDA.
Sorry, boss.
Go ahead, brother. That's it. I just want to say it was from all the USDA information, so I'm not just making this shit up. Here it says on the bottom. Go ahead, brother.
Sorry, didn't mean to jump in on you there.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm in Saskatchewan, and I can tell you, what do you need for a farmer? You need fuel. Well, what's jacked up in price? The cost of fuel, diesel, and gas. You need parts for your machinery, almost impossible to get and jacked up in price. You need fertilizer, being jacked up in price. The small farmers are going to have a hell of a time even putting crops in the ground this spring, and it's starting to get a little freaky, but we're not trying to scare anybody here. Just be aware of what's happening, right?
The whole point of us sharing information on YouTube is to educate and inform. And it's not to fearmonger. It's not to influence. It's just to share information we've come across from credible sources. For instance, Chinese agriculture imports of 2022. Barley is down 28%. Pork is down 64%. Sugar is down 25%. And soybeans is down 4% year over year. Luckily their sorghum's up 27%, but that's not doing a whole lot for them.
Not to mention China started stockpiling food months ago.
And people are running out. There's a sad situation. Many videos, which I'm not going to show on this channel right now because people are throwing themselves off buildings and hanging themselves in China. And a lot of it is related to the fact that they're on Communist Party lockdown, where they can't leave their homes, or they'll get beaten or taken away or thrown in jail. It's a very common thing, and it's unfortunately it's become a common thing, and that's not something that should be the case. That's fucking sad. And I just don't want that to happen to more people. So I think that's the reason that the majority of us are sharing the information that we have. For example, here, the price of corn, right, up $790 here for the futures price. It's a 118% increase. Then it looks like the 2-year futures are at $1,100, which is a 94% change year over year.
Yo, boss, have you seen the ships off the coast of Shanghai?
Yeah, brother, I have. But that one guy that posted the maritime pictures actually posted them without removing the leisure vehicles. So he kind of
Dan Collins.
Yeah, he made a. You can share it if you can, but he made a mistake. He didn't, either purposely or accidentally, didn't remove the vehicles that are like pleasure craft. So if you pull up marine traffic, for example, you can see ships all around the world. But you can actually go in there and filter out the vessels. And, well, let's see here. Get rid of the pleasure craft. Get rid of the fishing craft. And the high-speed craft. Passenger vessels as well are not needed for the most part. So you're left with this, which
Yo,
is
boss.
still pretty crazy. Let me go to China. What's up?
Oh, never mind. There's a lag on this thing.
Yep.
I was gonna ask, what is sorghum and what is potash, dude?
Various kind of
Potash is
go ahead.
what?
Yep. Various kinds of
Molasses.
fertilizers and vegetable type products.
Yeah, potassium's it's potash is potassium-rich salt, and it's one of the most important ingredients that come into fertilizers. It's basically potassium-bearing minerals and chemicals that gets used in agricultural and other applications.
Oh, okay. So if we don't have that, we can't grow fresh foods.
Well, we've got major potash supplies in Canada, and guess who's been buying up all of the previously government-owned resources have been sold off to guess who has been buying
BlackRock?
them over China.
Oh.
China also picked up all the big potash supplies in South Africa as well when they did the Point Noir dock. It's
Potash.
yeah.
Interesting. Appreciate that.
No doubt. Great question. Yeah, that's the kind of questions we need to answer for sure, because some of these things might seem like just nonchalant to us, but in reality, a lot of people don't understand what other things, what they mean or what their implications are. So I appreciate that. That's good looking out.
Well, then even more important is the potash is actually used for flowering and fruiting.
So actual flowering of different kinds of vegetables and fruits and things like that, and for growing the fruit themselves. Yeah, I'm taking a look at this right now. I don't know if you guys can see it on YouTube, but I am sharing the marine traffic outside of China, and this is absolutely fucking horrendous.
Are they stuck because they're on lockdown? So manufacturing stopped, plus loading stopped, and all of the above.
Yeah, this is a parking lot.
And what are they? They're locking down for like 7 weeks at a time. Is that right?
Their schedule is probably like messed up since the pandemic, when we've seen them basically just sitting there on the waters. They're supposed to be like, their whole thing is working on schedule, right? If they're behind schedule, well, how the hell are they going to catch up?
Yeah, this is a purposely, strategically implemented issue that's going on here. China has been able to slow down some of the growth in their economy by locking down millions of people without having to raise interest rates or stop easing. China's able to continue quantitative easing at huge pace without having to raise interest rates. How? Well, they just lock people down, don't give them the ability to spend any money. So stores can't sell any goods. There's no activity in the GDP sector there, and supply chain is completely cut off. And sadly, it's going to kill millions and millions of people. And I'm sorry to even say that.
It's orchestrated,
look,
man.
Look, like,
wow.
This is not
Meantime,
normal,
killing
and
the
I
US
do know
dollar.
this since I am in the transportation and logistics industry. I do deal with this kind of shit every day. I'm not looking off the coast of China every day, but I will tell you that I have looked at this many times, and I've never seen it like this. And I will tell you that I've looked at Los Angeles plenty of times, and it has subsided. It's the issues in LA have gotten a little bit better, but not by a whole lot. Not by a whole lot. They've just kind of spread out all the way up and down the coast of Mexico, all the way around to the Gulf of Mexico, and along to the East Coast down to like Florida and whatnot. So they're just getting rerouted, but you've still got dozens and dozens of ships sitting off of LA, because they're not all sitting together. These containers are just keep constantly moving. As a matter of fact, Jackson, any chance you could touch on the GameStop dividend, man? I was really hoping that you could give us a little bit of an update on that for the people that are unaware as to what's going on with it, where we stand. People keep asking me, like, when is this dividend going to happen? You know, and I know that's not a question that we can answer, but what are your expectations on what we could potentially see? You know, take a stab at it, because I know you're not a financial advisor, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, so I just want to get some more information from somebody who I know has been studying it every single day, like you.
Yeah, dude, appreciate it, man. So I got word of this, you know, a long time ago. I was in San Diego in a hotel room, and I put up this video about how GameStop was possibly going to do a fragmented NFT via the Wu-Tang Clan's album that dropped in like 2014 that Martin Shkreli bought a copy of for like 1.5 million, and then Pleaser DAO, a decentralized anonymous organization, they bought the album for, I believe, 4 mil last July. A lot of people were theorizing that Ryan Cohen was in on that purchase and was going to basically split that one copy into however many retail shareholders there are for GameStop and use that as the dividend. But I just say that to say that's about when I really started digging into it. So what we know now is they got the marketplace pretty much ready to go. If you go to nft.gamestop.com, it's no longer a beta site. Well, it's still a beta site, but like the URL doesn't have beta in it anymore. And it says coming soon, and you can link your MetaMask or whatever wallet you choose to use. So their marketplace is imminent, which I'm stoked about. And then the most recent announcement was, I don't know, probably a month ago, and they just straight up said they're doing a stock split dividend. So it's a dividend in the form of a stock split. And maybe I'll say it again so people understand that, because it took me a few times to read it. So GameStop wants to issue a dividend in the form of a stock split. Okay, so a lot of times, a lot of blue chips like Apple, Microsoft, Qualcomm, whatever, they'll do a stock split every, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, and they'll do like 4-to-1. So if you had 100 shares, now you have 400 in your account. And it's just a stock split, and then you divide the share price by however many times it was multiplied by, so it all evens out. But the thing with this GameStop dividend, and, you know, like Boss said, I'm not an advisor, dude. I like make music and skateboard. So, like, don't take my word as...
But also, don't be so fucking humble, man, because you've been studying AMC and GameStop since long before I came around. So thanks for being humble, but that's not necessary. Tell me what you could tell me about the GameStop dividend and the stock split.
Appreciate you, brother. I love you, man. You know, I'm stoked on it. As soon as they announced it, I was jazzed, dude. I was smiling from ear to ear. I made a video like at 1:30 in the morning, because that's when it came out, the news, the press release. So basically, they're going to vote on it in June at their annual meeting. We don't know the date, but we do know it's June via their SEC paperwork that they filed. I think it was a 10Q, whatever it was. And so they're going to vote on an authorization to be able to have 1 billion shares. So I think right now they have authorized amount 300 million shares. Now, obviously, they only use about 73 million, whatever it is, for the shares outstanding. But I think they're currently authorized for 300,000. I could be wrong on that. But the vote wants to increase their authorized shares from 300,000 to 300 million to 1 billion. There's a lot of numbers involved. I've been up since January 28th last year. So they're asking for an authorization. They're asking for permission to increase the authorization of shares, which is no big deal. It's, to me, it's not like a dilution or anything like that. And then while they're doing that, they would do a stock split. They haven't announced if it's going to be 3-to-1, 4-to-1. I have an idea it's going to be in that range, but they haven't announced it. So say you got 100 shares and it's 3-to-1. Okay, now you have 300 shares in your account. And those extra 200 shares were the dividend, okay? And now when you're short a stock, This is something a lot of people know, but then again, we got ranges from beginner to advanced in here, so I'll just say it again. If you are short a stock, you pay the dividend to whoever you shorted the stock to, okay?
Yes.
So whoever you short sold it to. And just to go back a little bit further, I think it's really good to talk about the fundamentals of the stock market. So short selling, you're borrowing a stock and you're going to sell it to buy it back at a later date. Now, if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, there's a reason for that. Because what else can you sell before you buy? Like you'd get beat up doing that anywhere with anything. So basically, they're going to vote on it in June. I have a feeling that everybody's going to be in favor of the dividend. I think everybody just wants to get these shorts off their back. And I think if GameStop issues the dividend, I think it will force a lot of shorts, if not all of them, to close their positions, thus increasing the share price of GameStop astronomically. And I also think it's going to go over into AMC. And that's, I talk about that a lot on my channel in depth, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but that has to do with they're both being shorted through ETFs. They're both being shorted through options chain. They're both being shorted by the same institutions. That, in my eyes, that's the main thing. If you look at the top 5 institutions shorting it, there's an 80% overlap. Okay, so if the shorts are screwed on GME, they're likely going to be screwed on AMC. That's how I see it. That's how, those are my conclusions from conversations I've had with real stock market veterans. And so I'm not just pulling this out of my behind. This is from, like Boss said, I have been researching this for over a year. But, I think the GameStop dividend is the end all be all, but there's one way to find out, right? And, I think Boss is talking about this executive order, which I think he's smack dab spot on. And, that could do it too. But people are focused on different things, right? So I'm more focused on the blockchain.
Bring it all on, right? Bring it all fucking
Bring it all on, dude.
Yeah.
Honestly, somebody in my chat, like, we were just talking about it, like, how the short squeeze could come about. And I responded with, any way the short squeeze happens, I'm fine with, honestly.
It's going to happen one way or another. And we've just got so many fucking compounding issues that there's no way that we're going to get, to the other side of the road here without getting hit by something, in my opinion.
Hey, Jackson. So basically, by the way, nice to talk with you, Jackson. This is Pantheon. So it sounds like we're just being really nice to these hedge funds, and we're giving them a choice. They can either buy the stock to close their positions, or they can buy the stock somehow if they can find it to cover the dividend requirement. We're letting them have 2 choices here: buy the stock or buy the stock. Am I right?
Yeah. Which, hey, appreciate that, Pantheon. Nice talking to you as well. Also, I just subscribed to your channel, so everybody watching my live stream, go to Pantheon on YouTube. He's covering what we're covering, so subscribe to Pantheon. But yeah, that's how I see it too. This is leading to one ending. It's like a video game where it leads to one ending. Like, we were in a maze for a long time, but you either have to buy the stock or buy the stock. That's how a short fund, and that's why I talk about the fundamentals, because that's what happens at the end of a short. You eventually buy it back. Like, just for example, the big short in the housing crisis 08, Michael Burry, he only made like a 500% profit on that play, but he goes down as like a legend because he was playing with so much money, and I think he saw it beforehand. But in any case, when you short a stock, you have to buy that stock back eventually. It's not like I'll just, never cover that, never close my position. You have to close that position. The only way that you don't is if the company goes bankrupt. And GameStop is obviously not going bankrupt, at least not anytime in the foreseeable future. AMC, dude, I've been in the movies like 3 times in the last month. It is popping. Every single time I go, people are in the seats and people are buying food, right? So like, and people don't even care. Like, that food is expensive. Like, let's be real, it is. But people buy it anyway because it tastes good, it's convenient. So AMC's business model is great. And Pantheon is right. It's like, you can either close your position tomorrow, the day before 420, and everybody can burn it after the squeeze, or you can wait till you're forced to close because you don't have the cash to maintain your position.
Inevitable.
Yeah, listen to Cash, man. Don't listen to me. I mean, we're all saying it. It's like, I talk to my mom every once in a while about this play because she's invested in it too. My mom is the greatest person in the world, and like, and sometimes I'll joke to her like, because I'm her youngest, and sometimes I'll joke to her. I'll be like, "See, Boss Blunt said this," or like, "See, Trey said this." It's not just my dumbass saying it. It's like, we've all been studying this shit like a fucking. Sorry for cursing, guys. Like a group project, but in college when you did those group projects and you hated it, and I was always the slacker, by the way. I was the guy that everybody.
Not this time. Not when it counts.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's my thing. Like everybody's studying, quote unquote, this group project, like they're trying to get an A++, and then we all come together like forums like this, which are awesome. We should do this once a week, if not more.
Yeah.
And we all negate the wrong answer until we get the right one. And to be honest, like I've been documenting this not just on my YouTube channel and other ways as well. And we always come down to the right answer eventually. Like in the beginning, Bigums and Astro, we were on a call this is literally 12 months ago. My first time ever talking to Bigums and Astro. I think we were talking about like PFOF. And I didn't even know what it was. And then we learned that, right? And then we learn you can hide SI in the options chain. And then you learn you can, gamma can happen if you buy at the money or just slightly out the money calls. You just continually learn, and then you learn continuous net settlement, and then you learn ATS. And then you learn, is there a secondary book? And there, like, the rabbit hole has no end. I promise you that. And that's honestly one of the reasons I'm done with the market after this play ends, because they wrote this rule book so long, so convoluted, so complicated. They probably don't even know the rules anymore. Like honestly, that should be my next video for tomorrow. That'd
be a good one.
It's just so convoluted, but they do that because it takes the common man a long time to figure it out. But guess what? A bunch of motherfuckers on the internet figured it out.
We've all been working full time over here, working together, each in our own way, and then sharing the information that we have with each other and collaborating and trying to do, more information. And I'm with you, man. I did the exact same thing. I showed my mom a video of Dr. Marco Metzler and, tweets from Michael Burry and shit like that. Like, this is natural for people that know you to be kind of, unaware as to if they know you well. As I like to say, people that have money in the stock market know exactly what a short squeeze is. So when you explain the situation, they understand it easily. But people that do not manage their own stocks or haven't for a long time are unaware of the market mechanics and don't understand the situation, therefore don't see the bigger picture and the possibility of such a crazy short squeeze happening because of all the illegal synthetics and market manipulation that occurred throughout the decades. So it's really, it really helps to be able to show somebody videos or tweets or books about recent information that you've learned in order to share it, because sometimes they just don't want to hear it from you. Maybe then on their free time, they'll go and they'll watch this video for 5 minutes or an hour or two, and it might change their life. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
And just to go off of that, like everything in life is about timing. So if somebody's not ready to learn this information, maybe the timing's just not right. So I don't even talk about this play in real life. I just keep it to YouTube. But if anybody ever wanted to learn it, I'm an open book and you can pick my brain all day and I will tell you everything that I know, because I believe this is the greatest opportunity to achieve financial freedom ever. I mean, just think about this for a second, dude. I don't have a boss anymore because I am my own boss, which I'm very grateful for. But I used to work such terrible jobs that I hated, and my bosses hated me, didn't pay me good wages. Everybody does this, right? And just compare doing that until you're fucking 65 years old, and you got 10, 15 years of your life left for just to go to Hawaii for a couple months out of the year. It's screw that, dude. I'm trying to live now. I'm trying to do what I want now.
And
I was gonna make it
as bad as it is. We've got to get fucking rich or die trying. As far as I'm concerned,
it's I've already lived out of my car, man. It's like there's nothing they could scare us with. Absolutely nothing, dude. And like I'm passionate about this because I know there's a lot of individuals just like myself. Maybe they're currently working a job that they hate. Maybe they're currently addicted to drugs or alcohol like I was in my early 20s. Life can suck, dude. But when you have that financial comfortability where you're not sweating about money all the time, you can finally focus on what actually matters in life. And it's like I get emotional because it's so many people in the U.S. are in the lower class and they don't have to be. They got like master's degrees and they're like completely competent individuals that could help a business, but their bosses pay them $15 an hour just because they like big profit margins. So, I'm against the traditional job template, whatever you want to fucking call it. And I'm all for people, going after what they want and just going after it and getting it, man. Like, just do what you want. Like, I swear to God, if that means quitting the job that you hate tomorrow, do it and figure out a way to make it work. Because you will. If you have that in your mind that you're going to make it work, you will. Trust me, dude.
I always tell
so
people,
that was just a tangent, but
no, it was great, dude. I always tell people that long ago, one of the best things that ever happened to me, I got fired from a job, and I said that was the last time I would ever have a job that I can get fired from, and that's when I became my own boss. Best day of my life.
Yep.
What up, boys? What up?
What's going on, bro?
What's up, Randall?
Yo, what's up, Randall?
Man,
what's up?
Fashionably late as always. Always on
Sorry.
time. When Randall Cornett shows up to school us.
Not schooling here.
Peons. I love
No,
it.
you guys are way smarter than I. But I get everything that you guys are saying resonates with me. It pulls on all my heartstrings. But also, I want to say that like work's a 4-letter word, and not many like it. Everything that you guys are saying to me makes mad sense, but it also comes with having the drive to do what you need to do, right? So when we talk about like being self-employed and shit like that, one of my biggest, because I am self-employed, one of my biggest problems is sometimes there is a part of me like that feels like I kind of wish that I had not a boss per se, but somebody tell me that, hey man, like you got to wake up at 6 because if you don't wake up, you ain't making no fucking money, or you got to be doing this or this or this. And I think I struggle with that. Like I don't know if I'm the word would be like
mentor.
You're not alone. That's the hardest part. Every day is just making sure you've got that motivation day in, day out. Whether you're getting beat up, whether you're getting beat down, in life, in business, it's extremely hard to stay motivated, and that's one of the things that you really have to work hard and to stay on top of every single day, because it will take you down before you know it. So yeah, you're right. You've got to do it. You've got to try to maintain a good balance while you do so, because otherwise you burn out. And if you burn out, you don't necessarily want that. You want to give yourself a little bit of a break every now and then. So
I think that's super important, that balance. And then also, I agree with you guys too. I think like I'm a big person that's really like against college. Not that I'm against education, but I think that like colleges and shit are like a fucking scam and rape motherfuckers. But also, right. But what I will say though is I definitely wouldn't want somebody that never went to school like operating on my heart, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a double-edged sword.
Well, that's the case. Unfortunately, I think we could all agree that the way that the current school system is set up with for-profit education and private colleges and 30, 40, 50-year student loans that stay with you till you die that you can't get out of via bankruptcy is an absolute fucking scam. Yes. Do we need people to go to college to become doctors and lawyers and all that good stuff? Absolutely. Do we need other people to go to trade school? Yes. And then we also need business owners and other people to work as entrepreneurs, and in the gig economy as well. So we need everybody, but the current system is set up for us to fail, whether it be 30-year mortgages that the Federal Reserve is now talking about increasing to 40-year mortgages, or student loans that you can go bankrupt, but you still have to pay back because they're, not federally insured.
That's like a mortgage without a house.
Yeah. Kind of, in a way it is. Like I said, I think it's much more of a systemic bottleneck problem than I think it is like an individual college. I think it's the way that we built it all up. And you know, I might lose some traction here in terms of like people supporting me, but like I'm actually a believer. Like I think jails, like private jails, are the same kind of fucking thing. I think they're a big fucking money grab, and part of me is like I believe, yeah, and like there's part of me that's like, and people are probably not going to agree with this, but I like welcome like some chain gang shit. I think if you are going to be a criminal to society, your ass needs to go to fucking work. Like we're going to make it where your hands are bleeding kind of shit. You're going to fucking build roads. You're going to do X, Y, and fucking Z. And that's just part of the, you know, what that's what comes with you being a fucking criminal. And I'm not saying like somebody that was like on some weed charges or some shit, but if you're a murderer, or you do like, or you're fucking people,
if you,
know what I mean? Like
you could pick one politician or banker or just one person in general, Randall, to go to jail for their crimes, allegedly, who would you pick?
I mean, without trying to make the public love me, but I think Ken Griffin is a prime candidate. I think he's
his ass up.
No, I think he's a
crowd
prime.
Goes wild.
No, I think he's an example of how money and like greed and shit can benefit you in a way that's like not healthy for everybody else. And you know, it's like all these guys, it's because their pockets are getting fucking lined, right? They're okay with it, or they turn a blind eye, or like see, like the thing is like Gary Gensler, it's like part of me hates this motherfucker, then part of me loves him in a sense. But I also know this guy, his hands are so fucking tied. Like the truth of it is like, so I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Yeah, right. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, the actions he's taking, right? Like, you know, you stand up for the people, blah, 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 blah. But when you got people that have fucking a noose, so like literally like a noose on you, it makes things a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, but who is the real villain? The banks, the market maker, the Fed?
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys that are, and that's what pretty much Boss,
we need to think bigger, right? Edward, think higher level.
Yeah, we've all been screaming this from the rooftops. Is like, hey, this is not like the way I think about this is like, and I'm not saying that I'm a corrupt, greedy motherfucker, but money changes people, and so if I was like a hedge fund, and I was given this sort of rope, I don't know, like, and I'm just being completely honest here, if I would do anything differently than them if that was the rope that they're given, right? You're going to push the fucking limits. That's just like part of being a business owner. You're going to try and make as much money as you fucking can. So I have to lay the blame on not their greed, but these motherfuckers that are actually in like putting the rules out there that are allowing this shit to happen. Like this falls on their fucking shoulders. And that's why we talk about like, and I know Pantheon's even spoke on this, is like, hey, we can't, is it really plausible that everybody pulls their money out of the fucking banks tomorrow? Fuck no, right? Like that's probably not going to happen, right? People are in loans and all kinds of different shit with their banks. Could be lifelong members, and like generationally, right? Like could be like going to the same bank that their parents went to. But I also feel like the only way that we really start tagging these motherfuckers, like, you know, at least trading blow for blow, is by fucking up that cash flow. And so that's kind of like, I think Bigums and I agree with on that level, is like, hey, we got to start stripping some sort of money from them, and we can expose it. And Pantheon made a really good point too, was like, hey, like, you know, just saying it is one thing, but like actually what is actionable? Like what is something we really can do? Is it realistic to believe that everybody's going to pull their money out of the fucking banks tomorrow? Probably not. So if we can start thinking about ways that we can start fucking with these guys, that's going to be a big win for us.
You're right. I mean, not every single person, for example, or one person is going to make the entire difference. But every dollar that's taken out of ISDA abusing banks and hedge funds that are using your pensions and 401ks to invest in Chinese collateral and to short your favorite stocks, if you're not managing your own money, that's something that you need to look into yourself to make the changes you need to look into, you know, to better your financial future. Because if you want things to be better, and you know that other people are trying to make it better, Why the fuck would you continue to trade on Robinhood if you know they're pushing your order through a dark pool, for example? Why the fuck would you keep your money in a non-self-managed account with Vanguard or BlackRock or U.S. Bank or Bank of America or any of these other assholes if you're not investing it yourself? Because the reason your 401k and pension and IRA and ISA accounts are down is because they're investing your money in this shitty, cheap Chinese fucking collateral and emerging market collateral like they have been for many, many years. And this real estate that, as we've shown you with like mortgage-backed securities and everything else being so overvalued, it is not a good outcome when you have this situation, period.
And boss, like you were saying, too, every dollar matters, because when you have phase 6 coming up, they're going to have to start depositing collateral. So any collateral we can take away from them, that matters a major amount.
Dude, phase 5 has been huge as far as CAT system, right? People don't even realize that a lot of what we've been seeing here, we can attribute a lot of the liquidity issues due to phase 5 and CAT system implementation, right?
It's going to get even worse for them because, again, phase 6 comes out. Bigums and I, we even talked about this. Like, everything's going to start being centrally cleared, like through like an actual fucking real middleman. That's like going to be like a person that, the way I view this is like, hey, they're checking X, Y, and Z on both sides of these parties. Like, that shit doesn't exist right now, but it's going to. They're working on that. They, like I said, and these are something that we talked about, like Point 35 and all these guys. These are like the world's banks are coming together and they're saying, hey man, there's some fucking red flags that we're seeing and it doesn't bode well for any of us. So we better fucking start putting some fucking checks and boundaries on this shit, or else we're all gonna fucking pay. And I think that that's literally what's happening right now. I know people don't care about rulings and filings and all that shit because, you know, people, and myself included, have built up certain things of like, hey, what's gonna actually affect us? But I really do believe this is the shit because these are like the main fucking players. When they start getting regulated is where we're going to start seeing some real fucking impact, like changes that are going to, you know, affect the actual fucking price, like what everybody's paying, like the line that we're looking at. I think the is the shit is definitely going to encourage some sort of growth that's going to be in our advantage, you know?
Well, yeah, like we're saying, man, this is the unlimited money glitch for these banks. And this is how I think they get away with all this stuff. These bankers are writing these ISDA contracts. Nobody's watching them. And then as we've shown you guys with Iron Mountain, there's 36 fires that all had data fires from banks that were unrecoverable and that were involved with mortgage-backed securities. So they're burning all this stuff to the ground. They're like getting rid of all these traces of all this stuff. So when you finally have somebody watching this, they're not going to be able to do this unlimited money glitch. Like I said, phase 6 is going to be huge.
How many?
Phase 5 only affected.
Say that again for me, bro. You just blew my fucking mind. Say that one more time, bro. Bigums.
Which part?
How many buildings have been on fire?
It was like 36 or something.
And the majority
I got
of
them all on that video I put up. They're all look up Iron Mountain fires, dude.
Yes.
They're literally killing people. There was 9 people that have died in a fire. They don't give a fuck. Like I said, dude, what they'll do is they write these down. All these master agreements are on paper. So it's just between a bank and a market maker. Nobody sees this stuff. And of course, they're going to approve every single thing. Why wouldn't they? They make money. So right now, this is why I think no margin calls have been happening. All these bankers are just helping. I heard Pantheon earlier, and he's 100% right. They have those 3 options. Either you print more money, but what are you going to say to the people? You have to have an excuse to print more money, and they already don't have excuse for the last 40% of all currency they just printed in the last 2 years. So what are you going to say to us when you have to say, well, we need to print more? You can't do that again, or we're going to revolt. You either... what the hell is the other thing you said, Pantheon? I can't remember. Sorry, I'm trying to do a couple things here. But like I said, phase 6, though, is going to be the biggest thing that can affect all these banks. And like I said, we need to get as many of these loans out of the derivatives market because it's all collateral. It's all stuff they're just repackaging over and over again just to use for unlimited collateral. Phase 6 comes out September 1st, by the way.
Those are new phase 6 regulations by the SEC and the DTC, right? Some people keep asking me, so I wanted to confirm with you.
Yeah, phase 6. So yeah, like right now, so what phase 6 is, all these guys, like we said, for these agreements, there's nobody watching them, and there's what they're using is called a credit support annex as a collateral. So they're not depositing any money. It doesn't cost them anything to open these. Then this is how they can get unlimited shares. If you guys are on Google right now, anyone who's listening, type in overstock lawsuit, sham reset, and then the word Hassan, Hassan. You can go ahead and pull up that lawsuit so you guys can understand this has been in court. We're not just making this up. This is how they've over and over been getting caught. They do inside these agreements what are called flex options, married puts, buy rights, and wash sales. So when you do all that together, you basically just have an unlimited hedge. And this is how they also continuously collect on premiums with these buy rights. And this is why I keep telling people, stay away from these options with these YOLO weekly ones. I mean, if you just play your options smart, trust me, they got all these hedge for, and they really, really, really love your guys' premiums. But what's going on right now, and this is the thing, is so you'll have nobody watching this, and they use the same exact collateral over and over and over to continuously open these ISDA contracts. So like I said, they have unlimited shares, and then when they get too many, if you're, like I said, if you're listening right now, Google Iron Mountain data fires, and then look at how many there are. It's insane how many they have. It's like if you're a data company and that's your only business, how the hell are you going to continue? And your only business is, yeah, we protect data. How can you have that many fires in your company history? And it goes all the way back to 99.
Wow.
Wasn't there
2014? Yeah, they're all over the place.
Wasn't there documentation on that TD Ameritrade building that there was a janitor that was doing stuff?
I'm not sure.
We got the documentation. We got the documentation now.
Doesn't surprise me though. They slide that guy fucking 3 to 5 million. And they let him take the fucking rap. You know what I mean? It's like, what's that guy? He's like, fuck, I was a janitor.
Yeah, he was like, I heard somebody saying like he was climbing up, like he was on a ladder in the was it the VAX system? I forgot what it was, and it was like on fire, and it's like, oh, it's randomly on fire or something. It's like in a movie. It's like a plant that was like a plant deal. It was weird.
Dude,
I don't know
all
where
I
I
know
heard it
is
from.
you don't haul away debris while it's still on fire.
Exactly, and he like it makes no sense. It's like hey, it's on fire. Like let me just come down the ladder. Like what?
Here's the deal.
No, when they were hauling away the debris, it was still on fire in the back of the trucks.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That's just not how you do it. Unless
I've got those files here somewhere from somebody sent them to me, and I should be able to find it. Pretty sure it was one of my guys, Bob, here, but I got so many messages, I've got to like scroll up, inside joke, to go get that and find it so I can bring it.
While
here.
you're looking for that, boss, I'll keep explaining phase 6 real quick. So what's going on now with phase 6 is you're going to actually now have a counterparty watch the contract being made. They're actually going to watch the deposit happen, and it's going to be a $250,000 deposit per per contract that I was reading. So that's going to be massive. And who's supposed to be watching that, though, is our good old friends at the SEC. But at least somebody is watching this.
Are they going to
But like Randall was
to the CF?
Oh man, I was getting worried there was no one around.
Yeah, so we know at least they got their best interest at heart when they're doing this. So, but like I said, they're not going to be able to have this unlimited money glitch. They're not going to be able to just burn the contracts away when it gets too big. And like I said, this is other thing this is why no banks have margin called anybody, because the Ponzi scheme's been too big. Too many people have borrowed from too many richer people. The money's gone. They've stolen everything. We've already shown you guys the pie chart, how much currency is left in the United States, how much they have. They have $5 trillion. There's 2.3 trillion going around in currency. They have double all of us. And in the last 2 years, they went up 70%. We have 131 more billionaires in the last 2 years in the United States. That's insane. The entire... if you took all 735 billionaires, just what they made in the last 2 years since the start of the pandemic, it could pay off everybody's student loan and they would still have $3 trillion to their name. They said the system's too messed up. It's everything's too set, too funneled. You have too many people. We need more money. We need this, but yet you're finding out that each year they're getting $2-3 trillion in tax cuts in these companies, and then they go, well, we don't have money to do this, do that. Well, if you just taxed the rich like you should have, those trillions of dollars already could have covered these programs that they continuously have for recovery that they say they don't have. But yet we have all this money to send to Ukraine in the drop of the second. The SEC sits there and, we can't look into short sellers for years and years. It takes years to build up a case. But yet you find out 2 days ago, we're already looking into Elon Musk. The Doge is already looking into Elon Musk with us. Why is it the second a citizen does what these guys are doing, they're looking at us within a millisecond? All of a sudden, they got the money, they got the funding, they got all the people and the resources. It's kind of crazy, huh? And that's the main thing that... Go ahead.
No, so the way I think about that is like you found out your girl's cheating, right? You don't tell her that she's cheating. But you're like, hey, this isn't going to work out. You need to get the fuck out of my house, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, she starts showing you the affection that you haven't been fucking getting or you've been needing for the past 2 or 3 fucking months, right? It's like, because now her fucking, like, where she's comfortable, the roof that's over her head is being jeopardized. That's kind of like what's happening. It's like, they're seeing the people are starting to pick up, and when people like Elon Musk get involved in shit, it's like, this is bringing attention to like all the bullshit that we're actually doing, and motherfuckers start to panic, like dead ass.
Yep. Exposing.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been lies. Like ever since that, he's like, we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough milk. No, they do. They just it's about private funds and all that stuff being behind the scenes. If somebody's going to give them and present them money, they're going to act in one day, obviously, with what happened there.
Not to cut you off, but just to build off that, I don't know if you guys remember that, but remember they paid the government paid all those farmers a while back to burn all those crops to control the food price, and next thing you notice, Bill Gates buys up all the farmland. Like I said, they're controlling our entire food, everything.
Yeah, and then there's fact checkers. Like you guys go Google that. You'll encounter a wave of fact checkers saying, the government didn't tell people to burn their farmland and crops. No, they absolutely did. You probably have to search on DuckDuckGo to find that, to actually find the articles.
Yeah,
They've
they
censored
paid them.
Everything with Google. Yeah, they paid them.
They paid them. It was, if I remember right, it was 4 times the amount of what they would have made on the crop.
Yep.
And what farmer wouldn't do that when you're working? You guys know how hard farmers work, man. That's the hardest job ever. Of course, you're going to take 4 times profit.
That's disgusting, man.
Oh yeah, like you said, man, everything's being controlled by 5 companies. These billionaires, you'll be surprised what they'll do. They'll do anything to stay in control, and that's why these last couple of days I've been showing everybody with the politics. I don't give a fuck. I hate red, blue. I don't care. None of them care about you. Get over it. You guys got to look at where all these big people are spending money. You guys see that Ken Griffin, if you looked at his how much he's putting into the government this year for these midterm elections, it's $40 million. So he doubled his entire amount of the last 2 years. So he really, really, really needs this election. Why? Because everything's coming out. Everything is getting exposed. You got Phase 6 coming up. You got the transparency coming up. You got all these laws that are coming up in ISDA. And he has no control on these laws in ISDA. Because even if before Phase 6 was going to happen, Randall put up the other day these proposals that are worldwide. These world banks are saying we need to do this worldwide, not just Phase 6 for United States. Like, everybody is stealing everywhere. And through ISDA, what they're doing is when a regulator will come in and check it out, the problem is what these regulators are doing, and we have documentation on this. I don't know if you guys have watched any of my videos, but they will call these guys ahead of time and say, hey, I'm going to come on Friday. Then they'll call them on Monday, which gives them just enough time. So what they'll do is they'll call up a bank. And the number 1 bank is PNB Paribas. It's a France bank. If you guys want to look that up, look at all of their valuations.
Yeah, BNP Paribas. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, you're good. Look at all their past violations and read all the common things. It will be about hiding shorts. It'll be about taking all these shares. What they're doing is they're sending them over through these flex options. And you guys can also look, they're doing this on the IMW, on all these ETFs that they're shorting big time as well. And they're sending them through ISDA contracts over into Europe. So by the time the regulators come in and check, everything looks hunky-dory, and then they open it for like a 1 or 2 day ISDA contract because they're any term they want. And by the time the regulators leave the next week, guess what? They got all their stuff back. It's like I said, it's a complete joke. But that will stop with phase 6 as well.
We actually showed an example of January, our initial run at Bigums and I in our first video together. We showed the flex options on IWM and what that actually looks like.
Explain it a little bit if you can.
So they're basically, I mean, well, I guess we'd have to start with what flex options are, right? And so
Give me the quick
just to
rundown,
piggyback
brother.
off. Yeah, we basically flex options are give participants that are like big institutions to create options that are dated out with custom strike prices and custom dates on expiry up to 15 years. And when we went back and looked at the amount of flex options that were placed, basically in our run up in January, we've seen the amount pretty much triple in the amount of flex options that were actually used. And that, so it just gives you an idea of how these guys are playing these markets. And again, they're doing this on custom strike prices and custom expiration dates. So they have free reign to do whatever they want, and they'll do things like buy rights, married puts. At the end of the day, what it all turns out to be is it's creating synthetic shares. Like that's really at its core is what the way I take it, and kicking the can down the fucking road.
Seems like everything boils down in the end to synthetic shares, right?
Yeah,
I think
and then they
so.
say the same thing. Oh, it's to create liquidity for the market. If you ever hear the word "it creates liquidity," that means that we didn't have stuff at the time. There was none available, so we made it up to provide liquidity so we can complete the trade.
It's such a fucking joke. It's such a fucking joke, man. The more you learn about it, the sadder it becomes, to be honest with you. But that's kind of what helps, I think, instill confidence is understanding the way that this shit works.
Financial runs.
Oh, Yeller fucking said so. One thing I wanted to bring back up was that Bartlett fire. Okay, I've got the case details, the investigation report from the lead investigator, James Barbo. I didn't get it from him, but that's who made this report. My source shall go unnamed. But here's what we've got so far. This is all the information that we've got. And I will state one thing before I start. The initial reports, one of the fire chiefs that was interviewed on national TV, on the news, said that the rack system fell and broke the sprinkler system. I will state that I don't believe anywhere in this 20-page report does it state anything about the rack system failing whatsoever. So this says here that the fire investigation team was unable to layer through the debris for 6 days. A pile roughly 40 feet by 40 feet was left alone by the demolition contractor. According to witness reports, the fire started in a general area near aisle 6 and 7 near the tunnel. An eyewitness saw a spark come from a general area of a unit heater. The rooftop unit was almost directly over the unit heater, and using aerial devices, the rooftop unit was discovered, location marked with a strobe light to keep the demolition company from disrupting a possible area of origin. Layering uncovered the unit heater and the scissor lift that a contractor was using to reach the unit heater. It was determined that the rest of the layering would resume when other insurance investigators would be present to examine. That says that the unit heater was removed to a safer location to prevent further damage. It was tarped and tagged with do not touch signs. The scissor lift was left in place and it was tarped over the same signs. The area where the unit heater was removed, tarped over, and had sign attached to it. And there was video taken by third-party investigator Doug Rayburn. Prior to the debris layering, video was sought after and interviews of the employees and contractors present. The Bartlett Fire Investigation Team was assisted by Bruce Bernstein of Travelers Company, Doug Rayburn from Rayburn Fire Scene Investigations, and Scott Howell from Howell Consulting. Interviews were conducted at Bartlett Fire Station 3. 2 contractors working for Carey's HVAC located in Tinley Park, Illinois, not too far from me, were identified, and I interviewed at the Bartlett Police Department by Bartlett Fire Investigator Ackerman and Police Detective Cianco. The owner of the company was also interviewed. They were subcontracted by Comfort Systems USA, based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, via their Tinley Park, Illinois location. An interview conducted with an Access employee. For those of you that are unaware, Access is the company that owns the building, or is at least leasing the building. We believe that Access is partially owned by BlackRock and other companies, including, we'll get there later. An interview conducted with Access employee Marco Lopez was crucial. I'm trying to keep this informative and not add hyperbole, so let's try that. Mr. Lopez stated that he saw a spark come from the area where the contractor was working, and within minutes, there was smoke coming from a storage rack 2 aisles over. Mr. Lopez was at the same height at the top level as the contractor, so he was on a scissor lift at a higher level. Mr. Lopez was facing the contractor while the contractor heads back to him. Within minutes, there are 2 more Access employees who saw or heard the sprinkler system activate, where Mr. Lopez saw the fire and the sprinkler activation. Nothing about it getting knocked down yet. Mark Bernanke, the HVAC contractor, was working on the heater. He stated that he removed a 24 gauge hot wire, which he believes came from the thermostat. He performed this action instead of using a breaker or the switch located above the unit. It is unknown where the spark originated and where it landed. Now, let me add a little bit of a hyperbole here. But would you not believe, guys, that maybe using the breaker or the switch located above the unit to turn off the power would probably be the recommended way to remove a power source so that you can't get electrocuted before you work on it? Would that be safe to say, you think?
Yeah.
Pantheon, what do you think, brother?
Oh God, I'm so happy that you brought this up. I mean, these fire retardant systems have redundancies built in. It's all part of mechanical building codes. Nobody with the half a brain would try and work on a live wire without turning it off. Wow, I'm so happy you put this up.
So this is directly from this report. This is on page 2 of the Bartlett Fire Investigation Report from Bartlett Fire District, lead investigator James Barbo. Okay, and this case is now supposedly closed, and this began on February 9th, and it ended on February 11th, it looks like. Well, those 2 dates are backwards, so I would assume that maybe he made a mistake there. Let's go back to where we were. So it's unknown where the spark originated and where it landed. However, we do know that a hot wire that was not supposed to be removed from the thermostat before turning off the breaker or the switch located above the unit was in fact removed. Now, moving onwards. And for those of you that are unaware, which is probably the vast majority of people, my first major was fire science and fire investigation way back when, many years ago. Mr. Lopez was interviewed on February 5th, 2022. Okay, he usually works at the Access building from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., but he arrived an hour earlier on February 3rd, the date of the fire. He continued to say that all his orders for picking were located in aisle 8. He stated that he knew there was a contractor there to fix a heater. When asked where the heater was, he stated in aisle 8. Mr. Lopez did not know what type of heater. He stated that there were 2 types of heater that hung from the ceiling. When asked, Mr. Lopez stated that they were over the aisle in the center. He was asked if it was in aisle 8 in the morning. He stated the entire morning he was there. When asked what aisle contractor was working, he said aisle 8, etc. You get the point. If he had left or gone away, Mr. Lopez stated, I did go to the break at 8-ish or closer to 9 in the morning. Mr. Lopez continued to say that when he came back from break, the contractor had the center tunnel closed off, but I had to still pull orders. The tunnel is an access aisle that runs perpendicular to the storage aisles. It has documents storage above a certain height. Mr. Lopez continued to state that it wouldn't be an issue because it was on the other side of the tunnel, which is the same aisle, but he had continued to pick orders from the front. He was on the opposite side of the tunnel, but in the same aisle as the contractor. Mr. Lopez confirmed that he was between the tunnel and the offices. I'll move forward a little bit further because it's more confirmation. Mr. Lopez stated that the contractor was towards the back of the building, but right at the entrance of the aisle from the tunnel. There was a rough overhead drawing of the building on a dry erase board. It can be viewed on camera. There's also a picture of the drawing with the person who drew it. Mr. Lopez denied speaking with the contractor. He stated that after his break, he walked down aisle 7, where he took a left and found the tunnel had been blocked with a retraceable barrier. He was going to be pick his orders, etc. Let's get down a little bit further. He was working on the heater he was talking about in reference to this guy. So Mr. Lopez said, I'm not a professional, but he confirmed that he was picking at level 12, that's the height, which is the top highest level. When asked what he saw the contractor doing, Mr. Lopez ruled out the use of soldering and cutting pipe, so he was not doing anything that creates sparks. Mr. Lopez continued to say it looked like he was either turning a wrench or a screwdriver. What could he have been removing? A hot wire. Mr. Lopez stated that the contractor had a bag with him but didn't have any lights. He denied seeing the contractor using anything else other than small hand tools. Mr. Lopez continued to describe the orientation of the contractor to himself. He said, I guess he switched something on that kind of made a spark. It sounded like it was kind of like a good thing, like the heater came back on or something. I don't know where he looked to his right, my right as well, and then he faced towards the right, and then he said fire or flames or something like that. He was still kind of a couple feet away from me, but I could still hear that he said fire or flames or something like that. I could hear what he said. I did not have anything in my ears, so everything was kind of clear. I went to look at that direction, what he was saying, and I saw little smoky flames, little smoky flakes, like red flakes on top of aisle 7. When asked if it was on top of 7, but on the side of 8, Mr. Lopez stated, exactly, directly where he was at, just on the other side of 8. I mean on aisle 7, just same location, just aisle 7. Mr. Lopez was asked, when you saw the embers, did it look like a spark or an arc? Mr. Lopez answered, it almost looks like you put out a fire and there are still red flakes in there, kind of like that. I believe he's describing embers. Now, he continues to say, quote, like almost like it was barely starting. Mr. Lopez was asked if he ever burned paper or cardboard. He stated no, but he had seen people burn bonfires. Mr. Lopez stated, yeah, like red flakes on top of a fire, when he was asked if it looked similar to that. He was asked if this was happened after he heard the sound with the furnace, and he replied, yeah, after I saw something go off. Mr. Lopez was asked about the sound being similar to the heater firing up, and he said, yeah. Mr. Lopez was asked about the timeline of the heater starting and what he saw. Mr. Lopez said within 5 seconds. I had walked out of the room, and upon my return, Investigator Ackerman told me that within 5 seconds of the heater turning on, the contractor and Mr. Lopez had noticed it. I asked Mr. Lopez about the embers, and he said they were bright red. I asked if they were like a sparkler, and he said literally it was like a fire. Just not like the start of it. Mr. Lopez was asked about smoke, and he replied it was like white smoke. He stated, my reaction wanted to drive towards that way, but I didn't know what was over there or what had actually happened. So keep in mind that I'm on a lift, a scissor lift, that doesn't go fast when I'm on level 12. Where was I here? So I have to lower myself, but my instinct was just to lower myself and keep looking to see what's going on. This is amazing. Excuse me. I can't believe what I'm reading here. I thought I had read it, but I must have missed this part. He goes on to say, and then in a matter of seconds, the fire flames were, Mr. Lopez responded, all the way to the ceiling. Mr. Lopez was asked if they were spreading out over the ceiling, and he replied, yeah, and he showed his hands spreading outward. Mr. Lopez confirmed he was at level 12, the top level, and the flames, he said, were up towards the ceiling within a matter of seconds. Paper doesn't burn that fast.
No, that sounds like an accelerant.
Hey, boss, I got something for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me put it in ape chat. This is a video of how thermite burns.
What happened actually after that, Mr. Lopez said, was the sprinklers turned on, and he started lowering himself down as fast as he could. When asked if the contractor was trying to put the fire out before the sprinklers, he stated, never tried to. Mr. Lopez stated he did not see a fire extinguisher with the contractor. Mr. Lopez stated he just lowered himself down. He stated that the sprinkler of aisle 7 was the one that activated. Mr. Lopez stated that it was the one directly over the fire. He stated it actually turned off quickly. No, when asked if the sprinkler turned off, Mr. Lopez said no. The fire went down. As soon as the water hit it, it turned off. Mr. Lopez stated that his supervisor had yelled, "Come down and evacuate the building." Mike told Mr. Lopez to come down. There's a fire. Let's see that video, Thermite.
It's at a 1:4. It starts at around 134.
Where's it at,
140. Yeah.
All right, cool.
It starts around 140.
Yeah, that's the description of an accelerant. That's not paper catching a spark.
Yeah, yeah.
How do we have a fire go from being embers to spreading outward to to height level 12 on the top level of this location within seconds?
Look at the combustion. It's exactly what happens. Starts to smoke and ignites like instantly.
Look at that. And the crazy thing is that at that point, I'm going to mute this video real quick here. Great, man. Thanks so much for sharing this. That's perfect. Let's see here. So at this point, we know that now he said the fire was out and the sprinkler turned off. So Mr. Lopez confirmed he was speaking of Mike. Mr. Lopez said Mike to notify, that's a supervisor, to notify the other contractor. So they started leaving after warning the other contractor. They walked towards the offices where they met Rudy by the processing center. Okay. He replied, "I saw the guy working on the furnace, and when he switched it on, there was a spark, and aisle 7 on top lit up on fire." End quote. So that's pretty much everything. Hang on one second. Let me see here.
So he had a bag with him that had nothing, that they didn't know what was in it?
Just basic tools. Like, they didn't know what was in it. He claims there was just basic tools in there. He was unsure if
I mean, basic tools enough to make him thermite. That probably is. Because you don't need that many tools. You just need powder. You just need powder. Like, you need powder and ignition tools.
Mr. Lopez was asked about the flow of the sprinkler, and he said it was a wide pattern. When asked if there was a heavy flow, he said yes. He stated he did not know where the contractor went after the fire started. He stated that he went with Mike to the other contractor, and they had to yell at the other contractor because the scissor lift was too loud. The contractor started coming down where they left. Mr. Lopez then said he exited the building through the office. He couldn't see or hear the sprinkler anymore now. When asked what smoke was doing the last time he looked, he replied the smoke was moving to the east and going towards the ground. We thanked Mr. Lopez for his time.
Did you say the lift was too loud? Is that what they said?
Yep. They're not that loud. Especially since most of them are electric.
Yeah, exactly.
Aren't that loud.
This all fits a thermite scenario. Like, this literally,
any sort of accelerant, right? Any sort of accelerant could have played a role here. And the fact that this is just case closed, everything's normal, is pretty weird here. Let's see here. Mr. Grazer also was interviewed. He stated at the time there was no smoke. He can hear the scissor lift beeping, but doesn't know if it was moving backwards or beeping. There was no, or if the beeping just signifies movement. Mr. Grazer states that once the beeping stops, he will get off his lift and move the rope area. He saw smoke in front of him and to the left. He states there's no smoke to the right and didn't see any flames, but saw embers traveling with the smoke. Mr. Grazer was describing the tunnel height and said the first continuous shelving across level 5. Mr. Grazer stood up and said the tunnel was similar to aisle between the tables in the training room. Anyways, he was using body language to show this.
He saw embers.
Mm-hmm.
He saw embers traveling with the smoke.
That's what he said.
What the hell? That's all. That's literally thermite. That's literally what thermite does. Travels with the freaking smoke. Like, it sparks up and it starts to bust.
Like this in this video? Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, look how when it ignites, right? It sparks. Look, that's exactly what it does. That's the embers. That doesn't happen in a normal fire. Those are the embers coming out of the combustion. Like, it's just basic, like, physics and science. It's so stupid. Like, this literally proves that what they used.
So Mr.
Fits
Grisman
the
did not hear any
description
water. He believed he saw water in the aisle, but said it looked like water was coming down. Not any kind of deluge, but the smoke was heavy, like it was being pushed down. He said that he thinks the push in the smoke was from the sprinkler system. He believes he did not smell any smoke prior to seeing that. So we know at this point that the sprinkler system was working just fine. So now you've got Mr. Shaw also worked there. And from the looks of it, Mr. Shaw says, let me see, Mr. Shaw states the contractor came at him and said, "I don't need you to tell me how to drive this thing." Mr. Shaw replied back, "In this warehouse, I'm the boss, and you have to respect me, and you have to do what I say." Mr. Shaw then started to direct him like an airport worker directs a pilot. Mr. Shaw explained that the floor had boxes out for destruction, and that they were going to be picked up, which left a lot of clutter that morning. He directed him to aisle 8, and he told his contractor to wait. Okay, moving forward. A king who has to tell someone that he's a king is not much of a king. The contractor did not return between the last visit and on February 3rd. Mr. Shaw states that due to being a secured facility, contractors can't just walk around, and they just don't trust anyone with equipment because if you hit a rack, the whole place is going down. They don't trust contractors. Okay. Mr. Shaw looked over at the heater and saw it was still going and the contractor was up there. He states his work phone notified him of an email, so he went to check it. After sending a reply, Mr. Shaw states that he heard beep, 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 horn, 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 and thought, what's going on? And that maybe one of the staff members was going down that aisle and just tried to tell him. Mr. Shaw states that he knows what the forklifts sound like. I asked him if it was yours, and Mr. Shaw said no, it was a lift. I asked who, he said the contractor with the European accent. I asked the one in aisle 8, Mr. Shaw said yes. Okay. Mr. Shaw states that going towards the break room, there's a pull station. He thought about a pulling. He states that before he could move, the sprinkler burst and started pouring down anyway. He continued to say that's when everything became black smoke. He said that he knew that's when it became serious. This has gotten serious very fast. He stated that he started screaming, "Fire, fire, get out, get out." He stated he ran into the office and started screaming, "Fire, okay, get out." He said that again. Then when the sprinklers kicked on, the fire alarm went off. Mr. Shaw states that Rudy went out to check, maybe they hit a strobe. He states that Rudy went into the warehouse and Mr. Shaw followed him. Mr. Shaw states that smoke had already started filling up the record center. That he started walking towards the processing center, looked over and saw the guy, the European tech that was working in aisle 8, come down from his scissor lift real slowly, and he said, "I'm going to my truck." He was asked when he first saw the smoke, what color was it? He replied, "White, like a whitish gray." Mr. Shaw described the smoke movement like someone coming out of the shower and steam escaping. He was asked about the slow speed of the contractor's scissor lift. He stated it seemed slow, that he'd never been in a fire before, and it was really freaking him out. Huh. Mr. Shaw did say he saw black smoke high in the ceiling and it was too thick to see anything else. He states that he thinks once the sprinklers activated, some of the lights went out. When the sprinkler dropped, it looked like a ton of black smoke started coming from that area. Why would lights go out? Because of a hot wire that is improperly grounded or creates a spark by touching something metal, something it's not supposed to. There's 20 pages worth of this here. Okay, this guy denies seeing any smoke.
And what was kept in this particular?
I know here that this other guy, Mr. Vanderbeest, works there as well, and he said, let's see here. He told me something about this guy. I saw this guy ran up to him. Mr. Vanderbeest stated that at aisle 6 or 7, he saw Marco coming towards him, and he started walking towards Marco. He stated that he could see smoke at the ceiling. Mr. Vanderby stated that smoke was yellowish, moving, or pushing from left to right. States the smoke is 4 to 5 feet down from the ceiling. States that Marco told him he saw a huge spark and then saw a smoke started. Mr. Vanderby said he told Marco to leave out the front door, and he thinks he was in aisle 7 and went to aisle 8 because that's where they were working. His team was accounted for and out of the building. He was looking for the contractors. He stated the contractor is climbing out of the stowed scissor lift. He stated that the smoke is coming towards him, but it's still high. He states he's walking slowly towards the contractor, saying, "Come on, what happened?" He escorted the contractor to the main door. To the man door. He doesn't remember the second contractor saying anything and said he escorted the contractors out of the door. He went back through the building and exited out the front door. As he was leaving, he said he saw smoke moving towards the front, but it was still high. Then we've got Sam Pappas. He has had a voluntary interview. He owns Carey Heating and Cooling. Stated his company was contracted by Comfort Systems USA to evaluate the HVAC. He stated that Chris Styrzula has been working for him for 11 years, and Merrick Bernacki has been working for him for 6 months. Both employees were on site February 3rd, 2022, to perform work that Merrick quoted on December 15th, 21. Pappas stated that he worked to be concluded, including a monoline heater in the loading dock, needed a fan, motor, blade, and capacitor replacement. He said aisle 8 also had a monoline heater that needed lots of parts to replace. All parts were okay. Mr. Pappas stated that employees called him to notify of the fire that was happening. His direction to Chris and Merrick was to remain on scene until released and then return to the shop. So we can pretty much leave it at this here and just pretty much go all the way down to the bottom. There was here, Lieutenant Lane stated the suppression system was shut down after an unknown period of time to deploy an oversized fan in an attempt to ventilate the building. He stated the crew made it to what they thought was the row they needed to advance, hose down, and they heard a collapse. He speculated that it was boxes falling off the racks and possibly heard a rack system collapse as well. Lieutenant Lane believes he heard at least one sprinkler operating at this time. Lieutenant Lane stated that the suppression system was shut down after an unknown period of time to deploy an oversized fan in an attempt to ventilate the building. What does this mean? The sprinkler system was working just fine.
Hey, boss.
Go ahead, brother.
I got one question, man.
Go ahead.
How fucking rich are we gonna be?
We're gonna be so fucking rich. Look at everything they have to hide. Look at everything they have to hide.
Nobody's selling this thing, man.
You're damn fucking right, brother. Buildings are getting burnt down left and fucking right, dude.
Dude, that whole scenario of the contractor, it's like a movie, man. It's like a movie. Like he just runs out and starts screaming, "Fire! Fire! Everybody get out!" Like somebody did something. Like he didn't do anything wrong. Like it's just like, dude, the guy. So I looked up on the LinkedIn stuff on his. He's a Nordstrom Regional HVAC Service, 18 years and 9 months of HVAC experience.
18 years and 9 months. So do you think that he didn't know what the fuck he was doing? You think he doesn't know how to properly turn off a system?
Yeah, he happens to be the regional Illinois worker that was hired for that.
Yep. Oops. Time to destroy some evidence, possibly. Some ISDA contracts, like Randall was telling us, right, brother? Did he leave? Yeah, Randall got tired of listening to me. Bigums, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. He just fits the description like perfectly well. Like it's uncovering. It's like literally uncovering the biggest. It's like being in a movie. That's what it feels like right now.
You know, another thing that feels like being a movie is the amount of people that refuse to believe the issues that we're having with with housing prices. You know, we've got real home prices at record highs. The average American home is over $500,000. The average American home price right now. You know, real house prices adjusted for inflation have steadily increased since 2012. You know, basically since quantitative easing began. And at some point, a bust or a housing correction has to occur here. You know.
Hey, boss.
According to the Dallas Fed. Go ahead, brother.
So apparently, you remember how they were talking that the Feds were saying they're going to start selling off $98 billion?
Mm-hmm. $98 billion worth of assets off their balance sheet for the Federal Reserve, right?
Second they did that, they said that they've already bought another $40 billion in mortgage-backed securities. So they're going to start selling off. What they're going to do is they're going to start selling off other assets. They're going to keep buying mortgage-backed securities. What I think they're going to do is try and hold the housing market up as long as they can until midterms. And after that, they're going to have to let it crash. They have no choice. Otherwise, you're going to end up having the Feds own 70% of these mortgages at this point in the United States. It's just ridiculous.
Now, is a crash like necessarily good for us because you can buy houses cheaper?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're gonna. Well, what's gonna end up happening is because nobody can afford this. Inflation's still going up. They're trying to raise rates. Nobody's gonna buy a house when the average is 500,000. Nobody can. You got people. How many people? I can't remember the percentage. Yeah, I can't remember the percentage I put up, but there was a high percentage of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. You got all this stuff with COVID that is allowing people to push off rent and push off these payments. Well, that's going to come to an end, and when that comes to an end, nobody's going to have all that back money saved up and ready to go. You're going to have people defaulting like crazy.
Yeah.
I was looking at this stat the other day. Hold on, where was it? So, America right now, there was like 183 million jobs or something like that available. 89 million of that pays under $20 an hour.
So the vast majority.
Oh yeah, the minimum wage. Yeah, you were talking about that's crazy.
65%. Yeah, 65% of jobs pay under $20, and people are sitting there. Like I said, this is the major reason why you need to raise minimum. Oh, it's insane. This is why you need to raise minimum wage, and everybody that's against it. Well, the cost of living will go up. The cost of living's already going up. Look at like you just said earlier in this thing. Look at your corn. Look at your eggs. Look at your price of everything. It's going up from inflation. What you got to do is stop letting these guys get away with all this crime, and then it won't have to go up. They're showing that CEOs were making 351 to 1 on their average employees in most of the like major cases on like Forbes 500, and other than that, an average CEO makes around 125 to 1 of their employees. That's ridiculous, dude. Doesn't need to be that massive of a gap, and then every single year now, these last 2 years, these corporations are making record profits. This year they made record profits that were higher than they've ever made since 1950. Well, like I said, and then all they ever say is all right, we need to raise stuff from inflation. But then they get their tax cuts of trillions of dollars, but they never bring it back down. When they get their tax cuts, they keep leaving it up. So what's the point of the tax breaks? It's always supposed to be to give them more, to bring it back down, but it never seems to come back down. We're getting price gouged like fucking crazy, dude.
Absolutely fucking right, dude. As a matter of fact, I just happen to be looking at the report from the Dallas Fed right now, the most recent report for U.S. price to income ratio. So what that means is the exuberance of the price to income ratio for homes, the higher this is, the over leveraged the person buying the home is, for example. And that's not currently as bad as it should be. But here's the thing. They're literally telling us here that the delay in elevation of this exuberance is partly the consequence of the surge in real disposable income, which means the money that the Federal Reserve fucking printed and gave Americans as a bailout, as a stimulus, I should say. Sorry, not bailout, stimulus. During the pandemic that led to the slower growth rates in the price to income ratio. The surge in disposable income, the surge in money printing from the Federal Reserve, is mostly associated with pandemic-related fiscal and monetary stimulus efforts, and reduced household consumption arising from mobility restrictions and lockdowns. So people were getting stimulus money and spending less of it because they were locked down. What else do they go on to say? Here is where they're telling us exactly what they don't say on the news, but they're telling us flat out right now. Read this directly from the Federal Reserve. I quote, "If disposable income increases turns out to be transitory, as fiscal stimulus wanes and the Federal Reserve reverses its accommodative monetary policy, recent patterns in the price-to-income ratio may prove a less useful measure of housing affordability. Such transitory increases in disposable income are not strong determinants of long-term housing investments. Thus, the price-to-income ratio measure alone may produce overly conservative results when identifying housing market bubbles." In English, AMC Bigums, do you want to tell them what the fuck this means, or should I? Pantheon? Any one of you guys?
They're being honest for the first time.
Yes. Yes, they're telling us that, think of the word transitory, replace that with temporary. If disposable income increases turn out to be transitory, which they are because there's no more stimulus, and as fiscal stimulus wanes, blah, 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 and people have less income because of inflation, and the Federal Reserve reverses its accommodative monetary policy, which means they will no longer be quantitative easing as much as they were, even though, like AMC Bigums just told us, the Federal Reserve just purchased $40 billion in mortgage-backed securities, right? Meanwhile, they sold $98 billion in assets in 1 month. That's nothing for a $9 trillion balance sheet that will take almost 10 years to pay off. Actually, if they weren't buying $40 billion worth, it would take 10 years to fucking pay off. But at that rate, it'll never happen.
And don't forget to tell them that almost 2.8 trillion of that now is mortgage-backed securities. So they're already holding the housing market up. They've been for a while.
Yeah. They've been for a long time, since after 08, basically since 2010 and everything. They've been propping it up and pumping money into it. They tell us that the patterns in this ratio prove a less useful measure of housing affordability. It's telling us that this chart is bullshit and this number's higher than it actually should be because this crap, the stimulus, is actually transitory. And you don't have more disposable income now than you did in the past because we've proven that from the Bureau of Economic Analysis reports that we've reviewed every single fucking quarter. And Americans in the first quarter of 2021 had $4.6 trillion in their savings. And as of the first quarter of 2022, Americans had $1.5 trillion in savings. So basically 2/3 of all American savings is gone. And don't be like, oh, does stocks and bonds and AMC investments and GameStop investments count? No, those are not considered savings. Those are considered risky investments.
Hey, boys, I'm going to hop off. Boss, thank you so much for facilitating this. AMC Bigums, love you. Randall, love you. Edward, love you. Everybody listening, thank you so much. It's such a beautiful movement. We're all trying to change our lives. So let's do this again soon, guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Jackson.
Good looking out, brother.
Peace.
Make sure you guys go check out Jackson Hunter's Twitter and YouTube. He's got a lot of GameStop and AMC information that we don't always. We cover some of it, but he knows a lot about the crypto markets, AMC and GameStop, that we sometimes don't touch on. So it's definitely good to check him out as well. Don't forget to make sure you guys check out AMC Bigums on YouTube and Twitter, as well as Edward Britchick on Twitter, and my guy Pantheon AMC on YouTube and Twitter as well. Go drop a subscribe. You might learn something. You get some free information, some information that might just change your life.
And that's the thing, too, like you were saying with the government, man, it seems like they use BlackRock as well as their own weapon. They're also buying up all the houses. And then what turns out it seems like is Vanguard is the weapon of the corporations. As you can see, they're now trying to buy Twitter and get Elon out of that bid. So, it's crazy how many people are actually against us right now.
Oh, can we mention how Goldman, like I was talking about this, Goldman releases the article to sell at 30, right? When Vanguard starts buying. Like, what?
Yeah, it's
mass
insane.
conflict of interest, and their banks is just like an instrument for Vanguard and Vanguard and BlackRock.
Why don't you explain that briefly to people that might not know, if you can.
So I mean, they do this all the time. They do this with all different securities and stocks. Well, they'll. I mean, Jim Cramer was always doing this all the time. It's like if you want to, if you want an institution to basically buy at a cheaper price, right? You release an article and say why it's going down, so people sell their position, so it's cheaper for the institutions to get in. It's exactly what Goldman did. They're like, hey, it's worth $30 for on Twitter. You should sell. And then all of a sudden, well, Vanguard releases and they get a 10% position. I didn't tweet this out. I was just speaking to people privately on this.
That's cool.
But at the same time, like Vanguard starts buying and increases their stake to pass Elon. That doesn't make any sense at all, unless of course it's a battle of power and, you know, of speech on Twitter, because they use it for, you know, they use it for midterm elections. They use it for all different election and obviously censorship of speech and all that stuff. So of course they want to beat Elon. Don't not give him control. Just look at how much they're fighting for a guy like he's like giving a stake to benefit the shareholders, and then he's exposing. Well, look at the board of directors on Twitter. What kind of conflict, what kind of interest do they actually have? And it's not for freedom of speech. It is to control.
It's 100% the control and for freedom of speech. See, the thing is you got to think of how much stuff would be on Twitter and how much stuff if these 5 media companies didn't own everything, how much stuff would be exposed? The way they control everything, the way this game works, the way the 1% gets away with everything. They control the media, so nobody covers what they don't want them to cover. When we start showing you guys stuff they don't want us to see, what do? Oh, you're shadow banned. Could you imagine if nobody was shadow banned?
Absolutely. MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, Time Warner Cable, they're all owned by BlackRock in one way or another. Pfizer, Merck, Bank of America, Comcast.
And then today I found out Apollo Global Management owns Yahoo, and now they're trying to get in. They're trying to get on a bid for Twitter as well. For everybody.
Yeah. You guys seen that video? Damn. Like where it's bundled of all the videos that are like sponsored by Pfizer, like 45 of them. Why do you need to sponsor a thing that you're like if the thing is benefiting people? Why are you trying to sponsor it and push people down people's throat? Unless it doesn't work, you know. The whole thing is backed by, you know, institutions and backed by people who are trying to make money. Just like ever since the, you know, pandemic hit, they were literally trying to make like a global economical wealth for these institutions. I mean, Amazon was the biggest profitable firm since the pandemic, like, and while all the small businesses were being shut down. How is that even like that? To me is the biggest, like, the crime of all, basically. Just shut down every single business that was, you know, small business that they were being profitable, they were growing, and all of a sudden a lockdown. Boom, you can't do your business. Like New York was the biggest example of this. They just shut people down.
Yep. So many
and put
places.
them out of business.
New York, LA, Chicago, and many other places in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, you know, China, you name it. Globally, the middle class was crushed. Globally, mom and pop businesses were been and are being destroyed. And you can watch many people out there, you know, on YouTube and Rumble and many other platforms, and you'll probably get a lot better fucking news than you will directly from watching, you know, something on your mainstream media. Why? Because companies like BlackRock don't have your best interest at heart, and they make decisions based on money, not your well-being, not your health, not your freedom, nothing.
No, like you're saying, all those people got closed down, so you had nowhere else to go but these big corporations. And what did they do instantly? Oh, we got to raise prices, inflation. Oh, we got to raise prices, COVID. Oh, the supplies are gone. They're all out to get us, dude. We found out these corporations have more power and more money than nations combined. Do you know that they have more money? These corporations have more money than the entire United States. Do you think they don't have more influence than any of you guys can imagine?
People fail to realize that the Fed presidents and corporations are the ones that make the decisions for the United States government politicians, not the other way around.
And this is why it's so important, man. This is why it's so important for this Twitter battle. This is why you got Vanguard. This is why you got them bringing out everybody, all the big weapons, because it just takes one internet site, one thing of free, which is finally free to get information out, and it'll collapse the whole system. The reason that they can control it all is they control every single bit of information you guys see. And the second somebody doesn't agree with them, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. Oh, he's a leftist. He's a rightist. They got you guys fighting each other on the stupidest stuff in the world, and it doesn't even matter in the end of the day. You got people literally thinking that there's red and blue and that it matters. None of them. You guys, what do they get paid in their civil office? Maybe 100,000, 200,000 for doing their duty.
$250,000 at best, 350K
Not
at
even.
best.
There's not even like anything that gets that,
dude. Though, right? Being generous.
Yeah.
Without insider trading, how did they go from under $250,000 a year salary to being worth $63 million or $143 million like Nancy Pelosi and Gary Gensler and other people? Not to be exact, just throwing estimates from what I've last seen.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying though that you gotta look at it this way: the American people, we pay them a couple 100,000. These corporations in the back end, they're paying them millions. Who do you think they're voting for?
And where do you think they're putting their money before wheat futures skyrocket to all-time highs?
They make the laws. They make this. They make that. Like I said, they own the news. If they want an event, if they got some stock going, hey, now we need an event on TV. We don't even know if these are real events in the end of the day. Maybe they just needed a stock to push and they played some videos. You don't know. Like I said, that's what's screwed up. We don't know what's really true or what's false. All you know is what that reporter says and who's paying that reporter, who's paying that politician. Think of this. How many politicians have you heard in the last 25 years, 30 years? How many of them have promised, I don't know, let's say about 15 to 20 things when they went into office? How many of them accomplished about one? Two of them. Almost 90% of them. And 90% of their entire running is, I'm going to do this, and it's all lies. And then when they don't do it, nothing happens to them. It's whatever they need to say to get those payments from the big corporations to pass the laws, because in the end of the day, the corporations, as you guys can see, own more power than the government. That's why the Doge is going after Elon instead of the real people and the real problems.
Yep. And they're acting so fast because they're being exposed. And
Exactly.
actually, and it's funny because I feel like Elon, sent them a trap, and they fell for it. Like, to them, they shouldn't act on it if they were smart, but they fell for the trap. They literally showed that they can move and actually change in a single day if they were forced to. And that's exactly it. Like, they are showing how corrupt they are.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know if you follow Lisa. She used to work at the SEC, but
Yeah, I follow her.
She talked about how anytime she would get a case going, she'd work real hard, spend hundreds of hours on this case. She'd go bring it up to him and be like, I got these guys dead to right. And all of a sudden, next thing you notice, it wouldn't be her boss, but higher ups would just put it to rest. Like I said, it's all these politicians. This is what I'm saying, man. Like, these guys have no choice in the end of the day, because if you look at the pie, they own all of it. There's not that much left to go around. And if you keep raising prices, people aren't going to have literally anything. And now, once you start raising price in food, guess when people start to riot and go nuts and revolt? Is when they can't eat and they have no choice but to feed their kids. They're going to do whatever they got to do.
Yep.
So they have no choice but to go, all right, either we need to distribute this wealth a little bit, give it back to them. We either need to print again, or, like I said, you have no choice. We're going to revolt. That's it. Like I said, we all need to start thinking about, think about the crimes they're committing against you, your kids, like you said, your future, your kids, all of this. They've stolen, if you guys look up Social Security right now, by the time all of you listening are going to retire, I hope you don't plan on having any Social Security, because that'll be gone. Like I said, they've stolen every single penny they can possibly take, and then they funnel it right to the Cayman Islands And this is the problem. This is why I'm telling everybody the United States will collapse no matter what. Why?
Yep.
Because when you have the 1% and they're taking trillions out and they're taking all the money, you closed all these mom and pop shops, you destroying your middle class, and now you have just the poor. Who's putting money back into the economy? Because the rich aren't. They're hiding it. They're hoarding it. They're doing everything they can do to get tax breaks and not pay into the economy. So now you have what's left of the middle class and what's all your poor class, which is now like 80% of your citizens at this point. How much money can they really put back in the economy? You have nobody putting it in, but you have billions and billions being funneled out a day. It's going to collapse. There's nothing. There's no way that's sustainable.
That's a
You're
liquidity
right,
crunch.
Biggin, you're right. And I actually have been tracking some of the offshoring stuff if you're interested in it.
Well, I'm always any information, man. You can always send me stuff. I love looking at stuff.
All right, I'll send it to you.
Like I said, and now they've stolen the dollar so much, they've destroyed the currency. And that's the problem. It's a fiat currency. So what are they doing? They're looking at the digital dollar. Well,
Yep.
What's that in reality? The digital dollar is just more control over us. Why? Because if we don't like what they have to say, if we don't cooperate, if we do what the truckers did in Canada, if you go against your corporation, Amazon, any of these companies, guess what they'll do? They'll just shut your money off. You'll have nothing. You'll have no choice but to come back to work, or you won't have a single penny to your name. That's why they want to put it all digital, because in the end of the day, if you have money, real currency, paper money in your hand, what can they do about it? Until you get rid of it, they can't take it from you. So the problem with this digital dollar also, it's like, okay, so we're putting it in the hands of the bank. This is their pro that they say, and this makes no sense. All right, so they go, well, if we do the digital dollar, you won't need bank transactions, and banks won't be involved. They won't need to be involved because it'll be a person-to-person transaction, and it won't have to run through the bank system first. Which, okay, that makes sense. But then the next thing you notice, guess what? They're giving it to the banks. The banks are going to be in control of everything. And who the fuck's going to watch them again? And be like, all right, let's make sure that, all these dollars are really there. They're going to end up doing, naked credit. It's going to be the same shit. They're going to be able to do what they did to this dollar and short it the same way. And then what are you going to do? Now you're going to be 100% reliant on the banks, who are already the problem to everything in the stock market and in the United States in general. We also find out, like you were saying with the movie thing. So all these guys are laundering money for cartel. We find out that these bankers, they're linked back to the last 15 years on the biggest drug busts, all of them. And each one of them, we're talking about JP Morgan brought in 20 tons of cocaine. It was $1.3 billion worth of cocaine. What the hell does that sell for on the street? Think about that. They're the biggest drug dealers you can find. And they're allowing all this, and all they're doing is taking money. And then the Pandora Papers come up. It proves all of this. It proves all these people. And what happened? Nothing. Nobody cared. Did any of these guys get arrested? No. All these people get exposed for these crimes that should be, you're going to jail for life, or you should be executed, or this should be treason against your country. Tell me what terrorist organization has hurt the United States more than short sellers in the end of the day. You've taken trillions and trillions out of the economy. Trillions. You've literally collapsed the economy, and you're walking free. You're literally getting caught sex trafficking, these private islands, pedophile shit, like disgusting, fucked up, disgusting shit, dude. And what's happening to them? They're walking the street the next day smiling and laughing about it and clinging champagne. That was $12,000 champagne. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's so
Sad.
fucked up, dude.
Talk about Project Bluebeam.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And like people have seen these politicians and they like approach them in public. You disgusting rats! like these people know. Like there's one guy that got caught. He was of I think I forgot which state it was. But yeah, he literally saw like one of the corrupt politicians like, you can't do it like this in front of public now, can you? Like talk about pedophile stuff. It's like I would smack you, but I'm in front of you. You have your daughter with you. It's just so bad. Like these people, they're walking hypocrites. They're walking evil, evil flesh, man. Like creatures that have absolutely no remorse, nothing for people. They care about only themselves. It's
And then they
just
have no punishment, dude. It's
me-
it's a
utter
slap
evil.
on the wrist every time. It's
Yeah.
here's a $50,000 fine, or like I said, you don't even go to prison, or they get like probation and shit for this. You can't have a blue collar and white collar crime depending on your money. You can't have a judicial system where it goes, all right, if you can afford a really good lawyer, we'll let you get out of it. If you can afford a lawyer that will just keep pushing it back, so the courts just eventually go, fuck it, let's just settle out for nothing. Where we don't have that ability, like I said, you can't have two different type of systems for people based on wealth. It will never work. Crime is crime, dude. If you're touching a child, I don't give a fuck what you have. If you touch a child, you should be shot in the fucking head. That's the most fucked up thing in the world, dude.
Yeah, and that's what it was back in history. Like people, people who even stolen, they had their fingers cut off so they wouldn't steal again. There was no mercy for anybody, no matter how much they made. It
So
was literally law is law. Like it's not. It doesn't. It doesn't precursor off of how much you make. That's not how it works.
let me jump in and just circle back to Bigum's point on the digital currencies. We've got a question in the comments here from Chase, and the question is, for everyone, is there really a difference between the new digital dollar currency and the current digital dollar in terms of mobile banking? I feel like both are just numbers on a screen. I'd like to address that question. Earlier, Bigum's brought up the point of what happened in Canada with the truckers. What that did is it made the government in Canada enact the Emergencies Act for the first time in the history of our country. And this is important. It'll circle back to the US, guys. So when they invoked the Emergencies Act, and by the way, on 9/11, when planes were being grounded everywhere, Canada did not invoke the Emergencies Act, but they did for truckers. And once that was enacted, they put a rule in that said now the banks in Canada have every ability to freeze all of your money if they feel that you have said something that the government does not agree with, and there's no repercussions. You cannot sue them. There's full indemnity that they can hold it for up to, I believe it was 9 months, and they don't have to give it back to you, and they can hold it that entire time. So let me just point out back to your question, Chase. What's the difference? They couldn't freeze your bank until they put in an emergency act and then put that rule into effect. Now, the emergency act came off, but they've left that rule in. What's the difference is an actual Fed-backed currency digital dollar, they could shut off at any time without having to invoke some kind of emergency act to put that rule in place. That's the difference. Just like Bigum said, it's about control.
That is like straight up communism. What Trudeau did, and everybody hates this guy. Everybody hates this guy. Everybody knows what he did.
So
and that's the thing. If you have paper money, like if those truckers actually had paper money, they would actually have been able to survive. That's the difference.
Exactly. If you have paper money, they can't manage or know what you have or what you're spending it on. If you've got the digital currency, they can know exactly what you're spending the money on. Is it been pre-approved? They could shut it down at any point, and they don't have to go through a separate step of going to the banks to have them do it through some, variation of the law. So that's the main difference, Chase, between I just thought that was a question worth mentioning.
And on top of that, so like, all right, let's say two on top of this, this is another major thing that this will change. So, all right, let's say there's people out there that get paid cash for whatever reason. Well, that'll go to an end. Remember, they want to know every $600. Well, if you do every transaction is digital, they'll know every single thing. Let's say you want to go, for all you people that like drugs, you want to go get 40, 50, 60 bucks worth of drugs. Well, they'll know what's going on. Like I said, there'll be so many different things that they can track. Like you said, they can stop it for any reason because you're gonna sign some automated thing. 99.9 of you percent of you aren't even gonna read it. You're just gonna hit I accept, and what you're really accepting is basically control of your money.
I mean, this is not a religious thing, but this connects to what I've been talking about in terms of Mark of the Beast, which is related to God, but their ability. It's getting to the implementation of controlling what you buy and sell, and the technological advancement in that is the more you approach an advance in technology, the more capabilities of evil is given. So buying and selling and tracking and all that stuff on the digital. People who are the elite and people in power. So we're heading to that crazy, crazy scenario, and people don't see it. Well, I hope they see it now.
All of the other articles on what Boss has up on the screen, the digital dollar.
Yep.
You look at the definitions, they actually define blockchain as distributed ledger technology, which are two very different things. They basically want you to think it's blockchain, to think it's like Bitcoin, so you think it's decentralized. But in fact, it's not, and it's very much controlled. That's something that you got to look in the definitions to see exactly what they're getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the CDC too, like you were saying, man, this is all about tracking every single thing. Imagine if you know, like you go mow a lawn for $20. Well, the government, they got to know about that. Let's say you guys go sell drugs. Well, the government, they got to know about that. It's all about being able to track every single penny you guys spend and being able to tax you on it. Like I said, it will change a lot about your life that you don't really realize.
To add to exactly what you guys just said, think of it this way. If you have a tax bill at the end of the year and you owe X amount, the government's not going to wait for you to send that to them. If they feel like it's been too long, they're going to take it straight out of your bank account. If you owe any bills to a debtor, the government could rule against you and take anything that you have immediately at any point.
If you have a tip job, they're going to know every single tip. So I know a lot of people that are waiters and like delivery drivers and stuff, they don't claim all of the money they get because they don't make enough anyways, and they don't want to pay taxes on all of that because anytime they get cash tips, they charge you an extra percentage on that cash tip. So people like waiters, like anyone, those types of jobs, they will be affected drastically by this as well.
Oh, it's happening on Venmo and Cash App. They just implemented that recently to track all the tipping. Like it's affecting like my mom's business too, but all the tippings that people obtain, whether it's a gift, whether it's a reward, whether it's people just giving it freely. The government literally wants to own every part. They want to have every piece of the cake from anything anybody gives, even if it's a gift. That's how insane and disgusting and evil they are. These are the things that are like hellbound. Like it's just so utterly evil and disgusting and demonic to such an extent. It's undeniable.
Yeah, they spend more time trying to figure out how to keep going, hide what's happening, than just fix the problem, which is so easy. Like I said, think of how much money we have spent on the war on drugs. When it turns out all you need to do is just arrest the fucking bankers, and you would have took out how many tons of drugs. If they got caught sending one time with 20 tons of cocaine, trust me, they've ran way more than that. And that was one ship. How many did get caught?
Yep.
You're talking hundreds and hundreds of tons that came from just one bank. What about the other couple banks?
We know this from the Pandora Papers, the Panama Papers. They all show many, many people. And you know what, Bigums, to your point, you were absolutely right earlier. I think one guy so far has been convicted of a crime and sentenced to jail time. I think Lo Jack To, I believe his name is, they call him Joe, from the Malaysian 1MDB scandal. He's the only person that's been charged of any wrongdoing from what it really seems like of any importance. For the most part,
you're talking about the Pandora Papers?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 30 people.
It was just one guy. It was one guy.
Yeah,
but we
got caught
gotta give 10% to the big guy, remember.
Yep.
And then who was that Maxwell fucking dude or whatever that got caught 90 days ago? No one on his list got fucking arrested or anything.
One thing.
That dude? Go ahead.
Didn't mean to cut you off, but you know what? If you guys don't mind, I would like to talk about something while we're still here for everybody who's been hanging out with us here this whole time. Did you guys know that so far, from what I know, the biggest short squeeze of the last century reached around $33,000 per share in today's equivalent? To the best of my knowledge, that was Northern Pacific shares, which rose to about $1,000 a share in 1901. And in 1901, $1,000 a share is the equivalent of it being $33,824 a share today, which was an increase of 3,282%, which is pretty fucking solid. Northern Pacific actually cut them a deal and settled with them for $160 a share, kind of like Volkswagen settled for $1,000 a share a couple years ago. But the difference is, in Volkswagen and Northern Pacific, those stocks were owned by corporations and a board of directors that had to do what's best for the company and what was the least risky. Whereas over 4 million investors are invested in stocks like in AMC, for example, and then millions more are in GameStop. And there's a very small float of shares available for both of them, and a large amount of evidence that the communities have compiled over the last couple of years against to show the proof of the synthetic shares, the rehypothecations, the shorts marked as long, the married puts and divorced puts that are used to hide failures to deliver as that are used to hide short interest as failures to deliver in the future, the futures and swaps derivatives contracts that are used and abused to the tune of quadrillions of dollars. Over $1.4 quadrillion in derivatives globally exist. Over $426 trillion in derivatives just for U.S. banks and shadow banks exist as well. So we've got a massive issue that we've had with printing a ridiculous amount of money. And I was wondering if any of you guys, Pantheon, AMC Bigums, Edward, or anybody want to jump in and kind of tell me, what do you think, based off what we know off the synthetics and the shares on AMC and GameStop, where could you possibly see a stock during all the volatility that we've been talking about over the last several months, and particularly for the last couple of hours? Where could you see a stock like AMC and GameStop going as far as theoretical share price, regardless of market cap? Because we know that doesn't matter during a short squeeze, because the tens of billions, if not, of shares have been sold, exceeding the float, in my opinion, for AMC, and then probably several billion as well for GameStop, which has an even smaller float. So proportionally, it's an even greater number. And you guys want to jump in and tell me, not price predictions, but what would you not be surprised to see? Because I'll tell you this much. I wouldn't be surprised to see AMC hit a minimum of like 10 to 12 grand. Easy, in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised to see GameStop hit 20 to 30, 40 grand. I would just be like, that's it? I thought it'd go higher. What do you guys think? And again, this is not financial advice, just a little speculation.
I'm gonna be short. Just apart from all the calculations I tried to do, there's just so many different variations. But I came to an interesting number, to about 12,678 for AMC, and that is just factoring in previous runs and the factors between mathematics, counting the runs from 191 to 2580 that happened in January, and then from the lows in 12th to June, which happened to be 7726, that happened either pre-market or after hours, I don't remember. But even today, we ended with 63.35 short volume percent of the whole volume. Every day, AMC is traded at 60% short volume. Like, we've passed the even possibilities of being over the float. Like, we've bought the float so many times over, it is beyond. And to see this constantly being up 60% short volume, I mean, they're just printing so much synthetics, and like you've said, the market cap doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's gonna matter how much has to be bought back. The market cap is just whatever calculation accounts as how much has been purchased into the company or into the stock security. But in my opinion, the synthetics are beyond. Like I've said, there's probably about 65 billion synthetics on AMC alone. I'm pretty sure they've already passed that. They're probably past 100 billion with how much options and swaps and all this stuff is being manipulated on AMC. Obviously, this is theoretical. I can't prove this on paper, but observing like the data and how much has been manipulated for ever since the buy button was removed, and even previous since 2013, it's been in a constant like just Wyckoff distribution, and then you have these other periods of like running. It's crazy to me how the stock market is this manipulated. So that's just what my number comes down to. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it hits 12,678. It would surprise me if it be like crazy higher. Like obviously people are saying 100K. I don't know. I think time will tell, and there's a lot of things have to happen for this play to happen. For this kind of price, firms have to be liquidated. Defaulting has to happen. Crash has to occur. There's a lot of things that like for the dominoes to fall for this to play out, because we're holding, and it's not we're not like big corporations like what happened with Volkswagen, but we're the people fighting against the big institutions, big corporations that have been doing fraud and manipulation for years on AMC, on GME, on all these meme basket stocks, costs, SNL, all these other. Everything's a big short, and if they collapse and are liquidated, we'll get our prices.
Nice.
What do you think about GameStop? What could you see being a theoretical
past 20K
position for it?
theoretically. Yeah, past 20K theoretically, easily.
Yep. What do you think about those people that think it won't get past $300 or $500 or $1,000 a share?
That's silly. That's
Exactly.
so stupidly silly to me.
I wouldn't have been so kind about it.
If you see GME run from 12 it was like $7 to 483, you think it's not gonna do it again? I mean, you have to be an absolute you have to be stupid to not believe that.
I have to agree. When retail owns the float so many times over, and there's so many millions of people, and many of them have 3x, 4x, 5x shares, and you've got guys like what's his name, Jim Pulte from Pulte Homes, recently buying $100,000 worth of GameStop, for example, and just people.
And it didn't go up; it went down.
Yeah, right. Jon Stewart and shit, and all sorts of celebrities are talking about AMC and GameStop, and next thing you know, that share ownership and that fear of missing out is going to really kick up even further, and 4 million is going to possibly turn into 5 million and possibly even 6 million. And the market maker, as my man AMC Bigums and Pantheon love to say, is just going to create more synthetic shares in the name of liquidity, and it's all fucking legal. And guess what? Because of that, we're all going to be so fucking rich.
Oh yeah.
So goddamn rich.
You fucking know it. Get the fucking money printer out,
game.
Jerome Powell.
Yeah, we're in the end game, and it's only time. It's only time.
Inevitable.
Make sure you guys check out AMC Bigums on YouTube and Twitter. Check out Edward Britchick on Twitter for sure. Check out my man Pantheon AMC on YouTube. Check out who else we were hanging out with, Jackson Hunter, with awesome information on YouTube and Twitter as well. Did I miss anybody? I'm sorry if I did. We just had so much freaking awesome people in here today. Not to mention my man Cash Money. You are the fucking man. You are a rock star. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for letting me be.
My man, it wouldn't be the Cash Cartel without you. I'll tell you that much. Let's wrap it up with a fucking song. Let's fucking go!
I think it's time to blow this thing. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Let's go, my Chicago Bulls.
Let's freaking go!
goddamn rich.
I think it's time to blow this thing. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, let's go.
Fucking rich.
We gonna be fucking rich, you heard?
I want my fucking money.
Yeah.
Griffin, I want my fucking money. Yeah, motherfucker. Holy shit, we're so fucking rich. Damn it, we're gonna be so fucking rich. Griffin, I want my fucking money.
You're an original,
Hey,
aren't you?
yelling, give me the fucking money. Get the goddamn money clear out.
Great.
My money.
Get the bounty letter.
We're gonna be so fucking rich. Get the goddamn money clear out. Hey, thanks everybody for your support. We appreciate you. If you stuck around this far, you're a true OG. Thanks very much, everybody, for your support, especially the moderators, Jamie, Javi, Diaz, Hayden, Pam, all you guys, everybody in the community. If you're out there, if you're a retail investor, in my opinion, you're an ape. Plain and fucking simple. Why? Because it's the apes. It's the retail investor, dumb money against big banks and the 0.1% that are out there to take what little we have left. So in my opinion, we have to do everything we can to prepare for the future, to hedge ourselves properly, and be ready to move into tangible goods and assets after we make a shitload of fucking money. Peace and wealth, everybody. Thanks again to Pantheon AMC, AMC Bigums, Jackson Hunter, Edward Britchick, Cash Money. Make sure you guys go check them all out on YouTube and Twitter.